Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FPL BlackBox ahead of Game Week 7. We are prompt. We are on time. Mr. Mark Sutherland is looking good.
We've got identical teams.
We don't talk about that. Identical points, identical teams. Yeah, it's not great, is it?
Yeah. No, I mean, we started the season saying, oh, it's going to be dull. Everyone's going to have the same team. And then 6 weeks in, what do? We arrive at almost the same team. I think it's the curse of the Game Week 6 wildcard. The template was strong, shall we say, wasn't it?
The template was very strong. It was. Do you go for Chris Wood or Calvert-Lewin? That was about as exciting as the as it got. It got a little bit more exciting on about 20 minutes before the deadline when Ray was pictured with the other view. You were at the Forest game, weren't you? So you weren't.
I did see the news. I was on the train and I got the news.
Yeah. I was watching Harry's stream and he was panicking. He's like, "That's not Ray. That's not Ray." And everyone in the chat saying, "It is. And then he's like, "Is he limping? It looks like he's got a little bit of a limp." And everyone's trying to analyze his walk. It was classic FPL.
It was crazy. I think I said on my walkabout video, I was kind of guilty of going to template. I should have been braver. And I showed 4 wildcard teams last week. You had a second wildcard team, so we both had Palmer in our thoughts, didn't we?
Did.
The Palmer Havertz configuration instead of going Saka in midfield, and would have been lovely, of course. But we're going to talk about Mr. Cole Palmer throughout the show, no doubt.
Can I just
and so on? But go on.
Can I just quote us from last episode? I believe you said his stats didn't look like he was the player he was last season. And I said that it's not the Cole Palmer show anymore, and the other Chelsea assets can match him. Good analysis, boys. Good analysis.
Yeah, so that's the good way of getting the 417 that are currently watching to switch off. I mean, in my defence, that was the case. And actually, I've got some things tonight to reassure for people who didn't get him, who watched him play up until the Brighton game. And don't worry, we're going to get to talk about Brighton's defence. I've got actually, because I looked at the heat maps and I compared heat maps of this season to last, and that's really interesting. So I'm going to show them later on when we talk more about Palmer and we look at midfielders. But I stand by what I said, because statistically he wasn't stacking up to last season. But then in one game, he has suddenly leapt to the top of the XGI tables that we're going to show tonight. Last week he was 43rd. So it's amazing what one game can do. But I think, I've got to hold my hands up and say that it was a small sample, and there were 2 things. I was led by the small sample of data, and I wanted to believe the narrative that under Maresca, Palmer wouldn't be as good. Plus there's a whole narrative about, Palmer's not going to get as many penalties, so therefore he's not going to be worth that money as well. So there's almost 3 things that you could have listened to, and I think I definitely listened to 2 of them, which was, I thought, well, under Maresca maybe he's not going to be as effective, and I definitely looked at the data and thought, 5 weeks is enough for me to make a judgment. Of course it wasn't, because an elite player can just like that change everything.
And don't forget as well, we were not anticipating Adam Webster to be in the team. Don't get me wrong, big fan of Adam Webster as a professional, as a person. Not good enough to be anywhere near a Premier League team this season. And a back 4, we will talk about Brighton a bit later, but a back 4 playing that high up the pitch has to be perfectly coordinated. And it was basically a mismatch of defenders who had never played together. Kadioglu starting for the first time at right back. Estupiñán, who's been out for ages. Van Heck out. And I mean, Duncan, when you've got Duncan Webster as the centre backs playing a high line, it's just asking for trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to dig into that, don't worry, because I thought it was probably the worst defensive display I've ever seen since Southampton against Spurs, when Southampton routed them at St Mary's, and Son got 4 goals, if you remember. And it was remarkable, just remarkable what we were. And you hadn't seen the game, had you? You didn't watch it until a couple of days later, and then you texted me going, "I can't believe what I've just seen." I mean, Sanchez as well. I mean, God, I mean, he was dreadful too.
I know. Yeah. The first half is one of the most ridiculous games of football I've ever seen in my life. It's the amount of mistakes, the amount of chances. the amount of just and the Southampton game's a good comparison, because that was the same thing, wasn't it? It was just Kane getting the ball like halfway line-ish and just loop over the head. And was it Hasenhüttl at the time? Just didn't make changes to it at all. And we did make some change in the second half, and we kept the score down. But again, we could have conceded 3 in the second half pretty easily.
And we're going to be talking about Spurs tonight, and Spurs go to Brighton next. And perhaps the fact they go to Brighton next is one of the reasons why we need to be considering Spurs, and certainly Brennan Johnson, right? And we're going to be talking about him.
Scored against tonight as well. 5
in 5. Should we look at should we thank our sponsors first of all before we carry on?
Absolutely. We have the sleeper sponsor today, and as September has ended, we now move into October, which means 2 things. The Pick'em League, the BlackBox Pick'em League, has a winner of the September prize, value of up to £500. So if you are Stewie Mac and you are listening to this, then let us know. Interesting one, Mark. 5 winners, all tied on the same points.
How did you decide it then?
Well, I thought I could just do a random draw. That seems a bit boring. So what I'll do is I'll pick random teams and then decide based on who got the most predictions right for that team.
Right.
For the teams I picked, they all did terribly. Like literally, it was a Fulham first, and that narrowed it down to 2 who got 1 Fulham prediction right each. The rest got none. And Stewie Mac won with 1 correct Ipswich result compared to the second. So it wasn't quite the epic sort of confrontation that I thought it would.
That's a good way. It's a good way of doing it, to be honest. Yeah,
it's fair because at least it's reliant on. I mean, it's still luck, but there's a bit of skill. But yeah, Mac, if you're listening, give me an email. Send me an email as FPLBlackBox.com. We'll send you a list of prizes to choose from, and you can choose your one. If you're listening to this now, there's a QR code on the screen. Get involved this week. October monthly prize up for grabs. If you're the top point scorer of predicting the outcomes of all the Premier League games, you'll win a £500 prize as well. So get involved.
Marvellous. Let's look at our game weeks. Let's start with yours. And these are remarkably similar. Don't know how. So we both played our wild card. You came in with 48 points. Talk us through this, and then I don't have to bother talking through my team, basically. So
yeah, I mean, this. I believe this is the team that I showed on BlackBox going into it. So I didn't make any changes. No, actually, no. I think I made a couple of changes because my bench looks a bit stronger. Anyway, I saw the Rayan squad news. I had someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, Has definitely got a leak. He definitely got some information that he hid from us." No, I just saw a video of Raya in a tracksuit walking around with the rest of the Arsenal squad and thought he's probably fine. You remember last week I said he's either fine or he's out for 6 weeks, and I called Arteta's bluff because when I saw him walking around, so I thought, yeah, he's all right. So it's good to have him. I know he conceded, but was it 0.2 XGI conceded?
Yeah,
for Arsenal?
It's deflected the first header, wasn't it? And then what can you do about the second one? Nothing. So
yeah. So
I'm envious. I'm envious that you kept him. Really am. But
yeah. I thought I'd risk it, and then it's Trent, Gabriel, and Lewis, and I'm afraid it's a boring team. It's Saka, Diaz, Mbeumo, Semenyo, Rodgers, Haaland, and Watkins. Watkins is the slight differential there. A few people went for Gvardiol and Calvert-Lewin or Wood or someone like that. I stuck with Watkins. And then my bench, I've got Moreno and Leif Davis, who I intend to play in his 2 home games against Everton and Leicester. So he's probably going to be my biggest differential going forward in Leif Davis. But yeah, 48 points. Obviously no Palmer, small red, Haaland blank, which I blame you entirely for cursing him. Rest pretty standard.
Leif Davis created 7 chances against Villa, by the way.
He looks good.
Very good.
Glad to have him.
And Ipswich have got much better fixtures now. We'll talk about them when we get to the data. Haaland, yeah, what did you make of it? I mean, he got a kick in the Achilles early on. I thought City were a bit ordinary, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the worry, isn't it? When they haven't got Rodri and haven't got De Bruyne, that is the worry. And at the start of the season, we thought without Rodri, maybe that would affect Haaland, but he carried on scoring, got off to such a good start. But now there's no De Bruyne there as well. I just think they have to get Foden in that team.
Yeah, well, he's back, isn't he?
he's back, and people are. I'm seeing a few people sort of talking about him,
Yeah.
but I don't think many people are going to go there. But he's got to come back into that City team because they're crying out for a bit of creativity. And yeah, once they do, I'm hopeful Haaland can kick on. But I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. And to be fair, it would have been Saka that I'd have vice captain, who only got 1 point more. But yeah, I think with a Haaland without any of that creativity, without Rodri, without De Bruyne, without Foden, I think we have to look at it maybe a little bit differently, which maybe we're not doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll bring up my team, which we have changed the graphic. That isn't actually just as his team again. So Flecken in goal, 2 points. Saliba, that is the difference between our sides. I've got Flecken and Saliba.
Flecken, I don't envy that.
Don't. Trent, Gabriel, both 1 point. Saliba got nothing because he got a booking. Diaz, Mbumo, Saka, Rogers, and Semenyo.
So bad, Mark.
Yeah, Watkins and Haaland. At least Watkins and Haaland are the other way round in my team, in my graphics. So
I can't believe you went for Watkins. He was. I didn't think you were gonna. You didn't. I don't think you mentioned him on the stream, did you? I was surprised.
I had one team with him in.
Did you? Okay.
But to be fair, I did have 4 teams. I was on the way to the Forest game. I was toying with the idea of taking Watkins out and going Solanke and Calvert-Lewin, which would have been worse. Would have been a worse score. I do want Solanke, short, long, mid, whatever term you want. I want Solanke. So I got Watkins in just because I thought Ipswich. I think that Villa will score goals and win the game. I think I predicted. Did I predict 1-1? Yeah, I predicted 1-1, and it was 2-2 in the end. It's what you said as well. You said Watkins is central to everything, and he kind of was. He was, I watched the game, and he was definitely kind of their key man, along with Rodgers. And the link up between Rodgers and Watkins is very strong. So it's what to do with him from now on, though. That's the dilemma, because
he was so impressive again last night as well. I thought Watkins, the way he leads the line is, what a player.
Yeah, I think when we get to our teams at the end of the show, we're going to have very similar dilemmas. So we'll talk about them then. But Diaz is definitely going to be one of the dilemmas. Let's look at the great and the good league. Nosebleed time for Az. He's up to third. I think generally, though, let's talk about this topic. Content creators are struggling. Discuss, because it's a hot topic on X or on Twitter or whatever we want to call it. I noticed that Trigger Lips is in the chat, and no doubt he will be pleased to see some of the content creators struggling. Hopefully not myself or yourself, but it does make it interesting, doesn't it? And there's no question. We looked at it last week when we looked at the average ranks of the great and the good. Look at these ranks here. Harry's top at 513,000 in the world, but generally the ranks are 1 million or above. Including ourselves, of course. Well, not yours, so you're just inside the top 1 million. But you wouldn't expect to be 812k and be third in the great and the good. In any other season, you'd be where I am with that kind of rank, if not below me. Right. So what's gone wrong?
I mean, what is it? 3/4 are under 2 million as well, which is Joe's at 2 million. Joe's never at 2 million. He's always in and around 100k, isn't he? That's his thing. So
he will be in the end. He always does. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy time really to be making content and for us all to be struggling, because it does invite a bit of toxicity, I think, in the community generally. I've said before, I think that's got worse over the last year and a half. The AI team, Hub have got an AI team obviously, which did really well last year. That's struggling as well. I think that's about 5 million or something, that team. So
4.3 or something like that.
4.3.
Yeah, I think generally analytics managers are struggling. I mean, Seb's at the bottom here, 4.9 million in the world. He is an analytics manager. There's no, for me, he is. He uses analytics pretty well. I think maybe, he's not as applied to FPL as much as he has in previous seasons. So maybe that's got a different factor. I know he's not on the scout cast and so on. So perhaps it's a season for him where he's not so engaged. So maybe that's a bad example. But I do know analytics managers who have struggled this season because, I know for a fact, I use Review myself. Eze and Bruno were being pushed, and they've been 2 players who, for one reason or another, just haven't delivered. And he's still in. Bruno's still in some teams. Matt Slippers had him on the weekend.
Yeah. He's got to play him again now. His opening was.
So they are two analytics darlings at the start of the season who have failed to deliver, but also reviewers tipping Armstrong as the 5.5 forward as one of, along with João Pedro, but Armstrong was highly rated. He's been a disaster as well. And to be fair, I was looking at Armstrong at the start of the season thinking he's a good 5.5. So there will be a lot of managers who use analytics who perhaps went with Armstrong as well as Bruno, as well as Eze. So I think, those three players have definitely hurt people and haven't performed as expected. But I just think it's not just analytics managers though. It's just generally, I guess the algorithms have more impact now, don't they? So if the algorithms aren't getting it right, or the variance is going against the EV, shall we say, if you want to use correct terms, then a lot of content creators, including ourselves, are going to be strong. I mean, I know you're never off the models, are you? So to speak?
Oh, you know me, and my favorite part of the game. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teams are similar. I think Luke said it in one of the chats we're in that there's a pool of 20 players really that we're kind of 25 players that we're looking at. That's the game at the moment. It's 25 players, but that's the game within our own circle. And that's not the game for the 10 million people that are playing it. So people that have gone for players like Barnes, like Madueke, like Dallo. I'm not saying these are bad picks, but these are players outside of the 2025 pool of players that we're looking at, and they've started the season well. So those who've gone a bit different and got a couple of those have soared up the rankings. Obviously, if you went against Haaland, there are managers who've gone against Haaland and still done well. But I think the majority of people that went without Haaland are going to be struggling in and around 2 million or below because they haven't had that. Because they haven't had that captaincy. I mean, I'm looking at the list of players, and there isn't really anyone. There's not really been a huge bandwagon yet, has there? McNeil is now entering into that territory given the start of the season he's had. Diaz is the other one. I think a lot of people would have got on Diaz early, whereas some of the more engaged managers might have thought, I want to wait and see how Liverpool line up. Is he going to keep getting minutes? Whereas some people would have seen Diaz in the first week score and gone, right, Diaz in. And then he's just been absolutely smashing it kind of ever since. So I think there's an element of some of the not poor options, but options maybe we wouldn't be considering continuing to do quite well going on, which has led to people falling behind. Players like Palmer. I mean, Palmer is pretty lowly owned, I'd say, within the template. I don't think anyone on this list. General has Palmer, but
Ben Crellin has Palmer,
and and Late Riser does as well. Okay, so there's three or four managers with Palmer here, but not a huge amount. And again, that's another thing, isn't it? Because he's had a couple of big hauls too. So it's very early though, isn't it? 6 game weeks. I'm not sure if I can get to game week 10 and be inside the top million. I'm probably fairly.
I mean, I don't feel any panic whatsoever because I think we've got the benefit of having previous seasons where we've been lower ranked than this. I look at this, I think 2.1 million game week 6. That's not a panic really. I think if I was looking at my team and value was bleeding out of it and I had 4 or 5 players that I wanted to get rid of, but obviously I'm not that. But I would have been had I not played the wild card. That's the ironic thing. I mean, I played the wild card early because I wanted to get on Diaz and get his value, and I felt like I had João Pedro a doubt and Raya a doubt, right? And then over the week, it got worse for me. Son was injured, Isak was out, and then there was one other. I think I had 4 injuries and Raya a doubt by Saturday morning. So I looked at that and thought, well, the wild card was absolutely. If I hadn't have played it Saturday night, the previous Saturday, I'd definitely been playing it by about Thursday, but I would have lost all the price rises. So I absolutely made the right decision. And so I sit here, 2.1 million in the world, having played my wildcard, thinking, my team looks all right. I've got 1 or 2 things I regret, but there's 32 game weeks to go. I'm not I'm not worried at all. I think that a lot of the managers in this table and a lot of managers out on Twitter who aren't doing so well now, they will turn it round because we know you can turn it round.
Well, I mean, respectfully, look at Seb down the bottom. He's nearly 5 million. His team value is 100.2. Like, that is not an ideal position for him to be in. And I think he's been experimenting a little bit because he went 5-6 weeks without making any transfers or something like that. But I mean, look at Fabio as well. Fabio's down in nearly 3 million. Team value of 100.
Manager.
And just 100. So he's going to have to pull something out the bag, I think, to rise up.
Yeah, but they can, and the season. I think the Palmer thing is great. I mean, I said this on the walkabout. I think the fact that Palmer's done what he's done now makes people think, okay, maybe there is an alternative for the captaincy, and we'll look at the matrix later. But also, Salah looked good last night, scored the goal, an excellent goal, and hopefully he can hit a 15-pointer any week soon to suddenly remind us that we need to keep an eye on Salah. And Saka is the one at the moment who isn't hitting the heights, but he's been consistent. But he's got Southampton this week, and he could easily hit a double-digit return in that. And suddenly we go, okay, maybe we can't get rid of Saka, or maybe we need to consider Saka. So we want the 4 or 5 heavy hitters up there to really make us think about it. And if Haaland starts to struggle a little bit, or City don't quite find the tune for a few weeks, that'll be good. I mean, not for me personally, because I've just got on Haaland, but I think generally for the game, that'll be a good thing. And so hopefully this is a volatile season where the models are failing to hit the heights, because actually the output this season is harder to predict.
I think it's going to be, and I think Foden coming back is going to be big as well. I mean, I talked about at the start. I still think Son is kind of the odd one out in the kind of premium bracket, but I think everyone else is going to have their say. I mean, I'll probably be losing Saka for Palmer in a few weeks, because I don't fully trust Saka as a captain option. So if I want someone to go against Haaland, I think then it becomes Palmer or Salah, and Salah still feels quite pricey, although he's going to have his say, I think, between the end of the season. I mean, my question for you though is on the wildcard. Obviously, this is a black box show. We talk about mistakes and things. I mean, do you see the wildcard as a mistake? I guess you don't, based on what you've just said, because you feel like you needed to do it. But
no, I if I hadn't played it Saturday night to get on the rises, I'd have regretted that come Wednesday or Thursday when I looked at my team and had 4 or 5 flags, which I would have done. Like I say, it was. I mean, João Pedro turned from a doubt to an inch to be an out. I'm just looking back at what my team would have been. João Pedro turned from a doubt to an out. Wissa was injured. I had Wissa as well. Son was injured, and Isak was injured. So I had 4 red flags and Raya a doubt. There's no way I was going to go into this. I couldn't. I mean, I had 2 transfers, so I could have just about got an 11 out, but I would have been struggling. I mean, had I known that Raya was absolutely certain to play, I might have got away with it, because I could have with 2 transfers got my way past four red flags. But it would have been. I mean, like, we say, don't we? Like, what does it take to make you play your wild card? If 1 doubt and 4 red flags isn't enough, what is, right? So no, I don't regret it at all. I regret not being braver. I regret thinking that, there was a chance I wasn't going to go Haaland, because I didn't captain Haaland, because I thought that at Newcastle he wouldn't match Saka against Leicester, and in the end he didn't. But Saka got 1 bonus point. That's all. And he was very unfortunate to only get that, but that's what he got. So with the idea that I wasn't going to captain Haaland, maybe I could have gone without him. But everything was saying, why would you wildcard and then book in 2 transfers? Because I definitely would have got him this week. And to get him this week, I'd have had to have made 2 transfers following the wildcard. So I looked at it and thought, I could have gone in with Palmer and Salah and Saka, which is probably what I would have done. But I wouldn't have captained Palmer. I would have captained Saka still. So I would have been better off. But then I would have to have made 2 transfers going into this week to get Haaland in, because I just don't think you can not have Haaland for this run now. So, who knows? I mean, in the end, like, if I'd have got Palmer, Saka and Salah, I wouldn't have got Watkins, and Watkins got 11 points. So that's 11 of the 25 points that Palmer got straight away gone. So it's not as devastating, that return from Palmer, as people make out, because people didn't really captain him. They didn't. No. He wasn't heavily captained.
No. There's a couple. And I saw a couple of triple captains on him, and the highest score obviously did it as well. I mean, fair enough if you captained him. I think Caleb did in the Godfather League. So congrats to him. I mean, my situation was slightly different, because I had Pedro obviously as a flag, but I thought my team actually looked all right. And the big swing for me was I didn't have any Arsenal players, so it would have been I was looking at doing Salah to Saka. But then I had Gordon and Jota, and I know they both did well this week, which is unfortunate, but I thought they were both potentially problems. Jota had just not played any minutes at all, off the back of a 0. Gordon had just blanked again for the third game in a row, and Isak was out. And I know normally a player playing up front is good, but I've seen him up front before and not been totally sure if that's the best position for him FPL wise. So, and then I was looking at like Mateta and Henderson, thought, cool, Palace aren't playing very well. And in the end, it was about, because if I'd done nothing, I'd be about 30 points better off.
Oh, really?
Because I had Salah captain, I would have had Gordon, Jota. It was Porro I got rid of, for example. Robinson I got rid of as well. All of these players like got something. The players I bought in.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realise your old team did so well. I would have taken the piss a lot earlier.
Yeah,
than I have
it
done,
did.
so
It did annoyingly, not as annoying as people who sold Palmer on the wildcard, for example. But yeah, it did well. But what did happen, and what I worked out, is that I gained over 1 million in team value from doing it.
Okay.
Because players I took out dropped. Gordon and Jota both dropped. I think Mateta dropped as well. So that's 0.3. And then I got a double rise on Jackson. So I cashed that out and banked the 0.1. And then, players like Diaz went up. Gabriel went up. I think Raya went up as well when I got him in. All these players went up. Pretty much everyone I bought in went up 0.1.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly volatile, wasn't it? The market was really, really quick. Yeah, I mean, so that will help you. I mean,
so 30 points versus 1 million in team value.
I'd rather have the 30 points. Yeah.
Well, so would I. So would I. But it does soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think I basically wildcarded to triple up on Arsenal against a newly promoted side, and between them they got 5 points between the three of them.
Yeah.
And that is pretty unlucky, I think.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I'm going in with Saka, Gabriel, and Saliba. I was expecting a big return from that, and it didn't happen.
Bruno's just been sent off again, by the way, against Porto.
I know, and I've got him in my so rare teams, and he's my captain. So that's that game finished. I'm out of that one. There's not a lot I can do about that. Oh dear, that one's over. Never mind. I've won the other one. I've won the Chelsea one. It was just the Arsenal outcome wasn't expected at all, and that really did throw a lot of wild cards out because obviously there was heavy investment in Arsenal, understandably, and the captaincy was, if it wasn't on Haaland, was on Saka. So therefore, we were diverted from Palmer. In another week where Saka didn't have that fixture, perhaps more Palmer would have appeared in wildcards because we'd have considered him an option over him, right? But I was never going to go in without Saka for that game.
No,
because I did think about, shall I go Havertz, shall I go Trossard? Maybe, but you're always going to focus on the talisman, and Saka still is that. But Havertz is showing up well, and we probably need to talk about him later. Let's start looking at some data. Team defense, first of all. What I want to pick out here is how close it is between the top three. Man City, 0.74 XG conceded non-penalty per 90, 0.74. Liverpool, 0.75. Forest, 0.77.
What?
Nothing in it, is there?
What are they doing up there?
Why are you so surprised? I mean, we lost to Fulham, but we didn't. We lost by a penalty, so XG conceded non-penalty is going to be lower, right? So we didn't give them much else other than the penalty. And yet, obviously that's one consolation where I think I don't have to panic about Palmer, because I don't think that Forest are going to roll over by any means. I think that's going to be a far more difficult game for Palmer and Chelsea. I think they'll still beat us, but I don't think it'll be a fill your boots time like it was against Brighton. City are surprising me, though, because I'm beginning to think that Lewis isn't maybe enough at times to cover City, because Vardiol is getting forward a lot more now. Got the goal at Newcastle, and I looked at the data, and while Lewis and Vardiol are similar for touches in the box, they're right up there at the top of amongst defenders. Vardiol's had 7 shots, which is pretty good for 6 game weeks in, considering we've been saying, oh, he's not as much as a factor. But he got the goal, took it well, and this is what I mean. He is a good finisher for a defender, and he is getting into the box and getting touches and shots. So I do wonder whether, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to move, Trent down, and I'm going to look at Vardiol. People are starting to lose patience with Trent. What do you think about that?
They are, aren't they? And the wildcards I'm seeing played this week, a lot of them don't have Trent in, and I've actually been quite, impressed with what they can do with it, because I've seen teams with Palmer, Saka, Watkins, Solanke, and Haaland in, for example, and then it's Gabriel and then some 4-5s. And it's actually looking at it now, I'm thinking, okay, Liverpool's fixtures are turning a little bit, and I mean, I've been impressed with Trent in the matches I've seen, but he's only 1 assist in 6 games. And patience does run out with a defender, a premium defender, when you're looking to save money and you're looking around everywhere else, and you've already got Rodgers and Smith Rowe and Semenyo. Where do you look to save money? Well, you're looking defence. If you've got a 7 million asset with only 1 assist in 6 games, then you have to look elsewhere. I'm still keeping the faith, though.
Yes, so am I.
I think particularly because Diaz is probably near it. He's probably my closest player to the chopping block, and I don't want to be without any Liverpool players at all.
Yeah.
But I can totally see why people are losing a bit of faith in Trent.
The counter argument to that, of course, is that Liverpool are second in this table, and they're conceding fewer than 10 shots per game, and we have seen a different Liverpool defensively this season, and Trent has got 4 clean sheets to show for it. So he has benefited from the stronger defensive resolve under Slot this season, and I think that I think that gives us reason to keep faith, because he will come good. I'm not yet convinced that he's not going to be somewhere between 8 to 12 assists this season.
Yeah. I mean, his XGI in the first game was 1.06 and he blanked, and he could have had 2 assists easy in that game. I think one was a headed Jota chance, and then there was another one a bit later on. And he had that goal against Man United, was it? Ruled out because Salah just got his toe on it. And obviously, and again, it's what if and all that. But if he's going into this with 3 assists and a goal, no one's questioning it. No one's questioning him. You're thinking, wow, he's already had like 3 double-digit hauls. He's got like the attacking returns, and he's been unlucky with to not get the returns he hasn't got. So yeah, I think that is going to turn. And yeah, I agree. I think 10 assists is minimum, right, for him. 10 assists and probably 3 or 4 goals, because you get a couple of free kicks.
Yeah, that might be pushing it, but I can. It's amazing, isn't it, how fickle we get as soon as there's a drop in output. He always was, wasn't he? He always was a bank, wasn't he? You put him in your team, and you think, well, if I need money, Trent's there, I can downgrade him. It's just happened a bit sooner than I expected this season. People are starting to fidget on it and starting to think, oh, if I need that extra $1 million, that's where it is. Or even if I need to get more than $1 million, I need to go down to a 4 or 5. That's where it is. I wonder whether that is going to be regretted. Let's just bring up the ticker and have a look at Liverpool's fixtures.
I mean, what game? I guess the only game you can take him out is now on a wild card or 9 Arsenal away, because everything else looks pretty good for him.
It's dangerous, isn't it? Because like Chelsea at home, Brighton at home, Villa at home. So they go to Palace this weekend, which isn't. I don't think it's an easy game, but I don't think it's as difficult as it once was going to Selhurst Park. I think at the moment they're in a bit of a lull. I mean, losing to Everton, it's not, spirits can't be that high. They are struggling to score goals. They're making chances. I mean, Eze's had I think he's second to Semenyo in terms of shot volume, but he's got 1 goal. It's just not working for them at the moment. They are missing. Elise was another X factor in their team that made a difference. So I think Liverpool can go there and keep a clean sheet. So why would you sell him when Liverpool got a very good chance of getting a clean sheet at Palace? Then, yes, Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Brighton at home, Villa at home. But 3 of those are at Anfield. And I don't think you want to sell Trent going into a 3 home game run, do you?
Well, then it's Southampton. The easiest fixture you can get. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's not something I'm looking at. If I was going to do it, I would have done it on the wild card and spread the funds around a little bit more. It's not something I'm looking at doing, because I'd have to. I don't know. I'd put him down to a 4 or 5, and that still wouldn't give me enough money to do Diaz to Palmer, for example. So, I'd have to be making 3 transfers then to use the money effectively, and I don't really think it's worth it. I mean, it could be something like Trent and Diaz to Foden in a 4-5, for example, but the faith isn't there in Foden yet, so not happening.
Well, he's next to go, isn't he? I mean, we missed the Palmer explosion. We know that Foden, with 2 hat-tricks last season, is very capable of doing that. When is the right time to get on Foden? You know, because if you go early, you got the potential. And City's run is an incredible run of games. De Bruyne are out. Surely Foden plays central in that De Bruyne role. Is it too early to go to him?
I mean, he starts. I'm sure he starts against Fulham. I think he has to. Does he play a full 90? That's debatable. If I was buying one, if you said to me, who do you want to buy right now? Is it Palmer or Foden? I would be very tempted to say Foden. That's the thing, but I wouldn't really want to be. I don't really want either of them. I'm happier with Saka than those two for now.
Well, you are when he's got Southampton at home, yeah.
Yeah, but I think if I was picking, say Saka got an injury and I was picking one to go for, I don't think I'd go for Palmer at the moment. I think I'd take the punt on Foden.
Yeah, I mean,
look at the defensive data. Look at the table we're showing. Look at the games they've got. I mean, they've got Forest next, Liverpool are second.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. We said it when we discussed Palmer last week that it's not a great run of fixtures. We did say the 2 fixtures he could go off on is Brighton and Newcastle, and he absolutely exploded against Brighton, of course. But now it's Forest, Liverpool, Newcastle United, Arsenal, and of those, 5 games, Chelsea could blank in at least 2 of them, if not 3. They could go to Anfield and not score. I'm going to say it. They could go to Old Trafford and not score. Probably not likely, but they could certainly host Arsenal and lose 1-0 or 2-0. So I don't look at that. And Forest, well, I think we will contain them and keep them down to 2 goals. I don't think they're going to rout us. Newcastle, I don't know what to expect, but what I saw of Newcastle against City, they maybe are starting to turn the corner a bit. So that's not a fixture run that scares me, not owning Palmer. Whereas you look at Foden and he's got Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton. I mean, that's when you consider now what Brighton could be, they could be a defence to exploit. That is 5 very good guys. I think Fulham at home is the most difficult of that run.
So do I. Well, you ask about what time to get on them. I mean, I'm looking at Saka for the next 2. I think is fine. Southampton and Bournemouth. That's fine. And then it's the question: well, do you go to Palmer with Newcastle, Man United, and Arsenal, or do you potentially go to Foden in Southampton, Bournemouth, and Brighton?
Yeah,
I mean, Foden at Southampton at home is a really, really fun differential because unless he goes off in the next 2, unless he gets a brace or even a couple of goals or something, his ownership's going to be low going into Southampton at home. I think probably around 10%, 12%, something like that. Not going to get a better opportunity to own him, I don't think, than then.
No, I think that we shouldn't sleep on him, and I think that if Diaz is out at the weekend, and we'll talk about Diaz at the end, if you can get to Foden, I don't necessarily think, I think he will start against Fulham. My only thing, and we go back to the defensive data when I do this, I don't think Fulham is an easy game. I was impressed with them at the City Ground. I think defensively they look pretty sound, and the data backs that up, right?
Yeah. I've been impressed with them in pretty much all the games I've seen them play. I mean, that was their first clean sheet of the season. I mean, even against Manchester United, they restricted them, didn't they? It was a game of very few chances in that, and eventually they lost 1-0. I thought losing Palhinha would be a bigger blow to them, but they looked to have adapted to that, and they look a really, really good unit and know how to play. I still think City are going to have too much for them. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about captains at the end. Haven't really looked outside of Haaland for it, but I'm expecting Fulham to put up a bit of a fight, depending on how they set up.
Chelsea and Spurs are 5th and 6th in this, 1.04, 1.06. Are we not considering their defences? I mean, we're going to talk about Spurs' attack a lot this season. But do you think that Chelsea and Spurs can provide defensive options for us? A lot of people have let Porro go, and he immediately got the clean sheet.
Yeah, typical.
Including you. Or do you think it's just going to be you get Arsenal defence, you might get a City defender, and then it's 4-5s? You don't.
Well, Chelsea is. I look at these stats and I kind of disregard them because I've seen the mistakes they make at the back. I don't think they're right in defence. I don't trust Sanchez in goal. I think that back four are decent, but I think there's mistakes in them as well. They're all still learning kind of how to play with each other as well. Sometimes what Fofana's going at right back, they're still making decisions on who plays where, and that doesn't bode well. So even though the stats are quite good, I still fancy teams to target them and kind of create something out of nothing. Spurs are playing very attacking at the moment. I mean, against Man U, what they sat with, what was it, like a 4-1 or something like crazy.
Well,
Bentancur as the DM. He's not even a DM.
They have Kulusevski and Maddison behind the front three, don't they?
It was a bit of a. I saw the formation and thought, Jesus Christ, Postecoglou is going for this, and it worked well, and they controlled the game. But at the same time, there isn't a lot of cover there when teams break on them and go back. So, but the fixtures are good, so maybe they're just relying on controlling games. But that's enough for me, I think, to swerve both of them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Let's look at attack. And you talked about Spurs, and here we go. They're right at the top. I mean, that United performance, they put in 4.59 XG in that game, which has obviously put them right to the top of this table. XG non-penalty per 90 of 2.28 now. And, Brennan's the poster boy. Spurs' fixtures are absolutely sensational, I would say. I mean, this is the long-term ticker. So this is 12 game weeks, and they are second in that. So it's not just the short term. I mean, in the short term, it's Brighton, West Ham, Palace, Villa, Ipswich. And then they have City. But then after that, it's Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, Liverpool and Forest. They've got 2 difficult games over the next 12 game weeks. City away, Liverpool at home. They have scored against City at Etihad. So I don't think we can think that they'll go there and blank. I think they probably will score at least one. And they will probably score at home to Liverpool because Ange doesn't park the bus. Ange doesn't play for a draw. He always goes out to win these games. And also when they're 2-0 up, he wants 3, he wants 4. So they don't stop. Those fixtures combined with that philosophy, combined with what we've already seen so far, even though they haven't had the easiest fixtures, in fact, they've had some of the toughest fixtures, we've got to get a Spurs attacker, haven't we?
I think we probably do. And we haven't. I mean, we've kind of flirted with Maddison last week, didn't we? And said maybe he can step up, but he's still 7.5 million. And when you've got Brennan there for 6.4, he looks really tempted. And I mean, Solanke he's probably an 8-9 million striker, isn't he? Once he gets going, I expect him to get 15 to 20 goals this season. I think they'd be disappointed if he didn't hit that target. He's playing 90 minutes, which is the biggest thing. Like, he's come back from his injury and he's straight back in playing 90. There's still a bit of rotation with Brennan coming off around the 70-75 minute mark, but he hasn't. I think at the start of the season we were saying, Kulusevski could plly on the right. That isn't going to happen. I think it's very clear now that Kulusevski is seen in that central role where he's been so effective. Odegaard's out, so they haven't got a huge amount of options on the right. So if they are struggling in a game now, I'm not sure Johnson is the one that goes off because they need his crossing, they need his directness, they need his goals. Now he's starting to score the goals. So it's between those two, isn't it? I think those two are really, really good options for us going forward, and I can see why the investment's there, but their ownership's still so low. Solanke's like 8%, and Brennan's like 1.5, something like that. Good time to get on them. Yeah,
I mean, we're going to look at them in depth in a bit when we get to the midfield data. I just want to say also the top 7 teams here: Spurs, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, Villa. That's arguably, you could have picked those 7 teams, probably not in that order, but if I'd have said to you at the start of the season, after 6 weeks, tell me the top 7 teams for XG, those 7 teams would be in it. The only team not in it that you probably would pick would be Newcastle, who might push up. But other than that, it's exactly the teams we would expect up there. Which I thought, which I thought was interesting. And then down the bottom, perhaps it is predictable that Ipswich and Leicester would be down there, but Ipswich have had the difficult fixtures. No such excuse for Leicester. I think, scoring goals is going to be a problem for them. Wolves, I expect to break out of it. In fact, when you look at this, West Ham, Wolves and Ipswich, if you look at the ticker, the long form ticker here, Wolves, Ipswich, West Ham, 3 of the top 4 teams on this. So this is something to watch for, is it? So even though those 3 teams are low for attacking data to this point, they do now have a run of fixtures that could see them break out of that. Out of Wolves, Ipswich, West Ham, any of those tempting investment in the future?
Yeah, I mean, Delap obviously got the 2 goals against Villa, and we've mentioned him a few times on here as looking direct. You know, the goal he scored a few weeks ago, where he basically took it from the halfway line, smashed it in. They've clearly got a player on their hands there. So he's someone definitely to consider. I think if you're looking for someone around the 6 million bracket, Kuna I like as well. I mean, potentially even Strand Larsen, a little bit less, 0.5 less. I don't mind either of those because Wolves have got to start picking up points now, and you know O'Neill's still got a smile on his face and things. It's been a it could I think it is statistically the hardest start any team's ever had. But there's been moments I've thought with them where they've looked good. They've looked good going forward. I remember the first game against Arsenal; they could have got a couple of goals in that. They've created problems for teams. And I think with the fixtures turning, they should get some goals. So yeah, I like those three. There isn't really anyone else though, is there? I mean, Leif Davis we've mentioned. I basically class him as an attacker because the amount of chances created, because of how many assists he got in the Championship. And Ain't Nori, of course, as well, who's basically playing as a striker.
Yeah, I mean, like he's 4-4 defender, but in a world where clean sheets amongst the 4-5s are going to be difficult to predict anyway, why would you go like a 4-5 from, I don't know, Brighton or Brentford when you can get Ain't Nori, who gives you at least a degree of goal threat, but with good fixtures to come? So I think he makes a lot of sense, and I like him a lot. I think you're right. I think Delap, if you're going 5-5 now, you're looking maybe at Strand Larsen or Delap. I mean, you haven't mentioned Jared Bowen. You haven't really mentioned West Ham. I mean, I really want to bring them up just because you pronounced Lopetegui wrong. But basically, they're just, like last season, Brighton were that. No one went near them after a certain period of time because the rotation got too much. And even though they were a decent side on their day, or a good side on their day, sorry, and they offered some appeal, the rotation put us off. I think West Ham are going to be like that, not because of rotation, just because they're just struggling. And Lopetegui took Kudos off at half time at Brentford, and I was like, what's he doing there? It's just
I know.
like
I didn't understand
he's
that.
making some bizarre selection decisions. The performance against Chelsea and playing 5 at the back there and playing Alvarez dropping back was a bit odd. And even though they've got good fixtures, and even though Bowen is a close to a second or third tier FPL asset, I think, on his day, we're not going there, are we?
I just don't like watching them. I've seen them play. I've seen, the Brentford West Ham game was last on Match of the Day. I saw the highlights of that. There's nothing of note. I mean, Kudos went through on goal and then went off at half time. Bowen's looked all right in the games I've played, but he's 7.4 million. You're comparing him to like Brennan Johnson, for example, at 6'4". You're comparing him to like almost Diaz and Jota at that price. And I just think he's way off that. I mean, they're still playing Antonio. I mean, again, no disrespect to Antonio, great player on his day, done great things for West Ham, but he's not good enough to be leading the line for a Premier League team anymore. And who have they got? Also, they've got Ings and Fulkrug, who hasn't played barely any minutes.
Yeah, but he's injured, isn't he? Did you say Bowens looks all right in the games that you've played? Has Lopetegui been picking you? No wonder.
I've played. Did I say played? I'm in the scene. Well, you might as well stick me up front.
He's been making some very bizarre decisions, but maybe he's seen you take a throw in Gameweek.
Got about as good a chance of scoring as Antonio and Ings, I think. I think just the final thing on West Ham is you see the fans, you see the frustration in the fans, and when the going gets tough and the fans are against their own team, you've got to question whether that team is one to invest in, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you said Nuno first for the sack race. You changing your mind?
Could be Lopetegui.
Yeah, it could be. I just love you saying it. Brilliant.
No, I think it's going to be Martin. I think he is. He's got to go. I think.
Do you? Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to be smug about it, but it's exactly as I predicted. Like, they would come up, he would try and play that way, and they get tonked, and it's just not going to work. And
I was talking to a friend.
I would have loved it if they could play that football and stay up, but I just don't see it happening.
I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a big Southampton fan. Andrew Frost, probably listening to this, and he said it's all well and good to play like out of the back if it's going to create opportunities for you and create space, but they have no striker. They have no outlet to like get the ball up to, so they play it around the back, mess it up all the time, create loads of chances for the other team, and when they do get it right and manage to get it up the pitch, there's no one there to do anything with it. So, you're playing a high risk, high reward strategy without any reward.
Did you play that? Did you see that Ross Stewart in our team 4.6?
Yep.
Did you see he played the second half, and then after the game, Russell Martin mentioned him and said, maybe I've got to go back to some of the players from last season. Now, Ross Stewart was injured for most last season, but he strongly indicated that Ross Stewart would start at the Emirates. So I didn't expect when I signed him that he'd get 90 minutes, but I reckon he'll start.
We get we might get a little price rise there, Mark.
You never know, another one. Yeah. Because I think that when he came on, at least they had a focal point.
Yeah, and I like Dibbling, but you don't play a player like that up front. It's too much pressure, and that's not his game. You keep him on the wing where he can do damage. Yeah,
and Archer just can't hold the ball up. That's his problem. I think.
Why have they signed? I cannot understand the Archer signing. He's a player who has failed to perform in a relegation threatened team, the same as Southampton. Failed to deliver at all, and you're like, yeah, he's the one. He's the striker we need.
The thing is, he'd be great in a 2, but no one plays a 2. No one plays a 2 anymore, apart from Sean Dyche sometimes. But everybody else has moved on apart from Sean. But even he's stopped doing it.
He's playing with a number 10 now. Don't knock Sean Dyche. He's like what a 10 is, and he's stuck McNeil in there.
Incredible. It's like, he's gone and bought a few books and went, I don't have to play. I don't have to play what? Where was it? Wood and who was the striker he played with Wood up front for Burnley?
He had with Barnes and Vidra.
Barnes and Wood, they were the two,
Wood,
which worked well for them. But yeah, Archer needs a striker alongside him. I don't think he can play on his own, and because I don't think he works as a lone striker anymore. Not in the Premier League anyway. I think he can do it. I think he's possibly Premier League standard in a 2, but he's not. Goes down to the Championship, he'll get 25 goals. That's the trouble.
Definitely. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
I've got the keeper up. Not too much to talk about. Before we get on to keepers, 1,219 watching. Thank you very much for your support late on this Thursday evening. Super chats, we will get to them at the end of the show, as we always do. So thank you very much, Jerry and BMac, so far for your super chats. We will answer your questions at the end. So if you want a question asked, throw it in there and we'll get to it at the end of the show, as always. Goalkeepers, we've talked about Ray already. Sanchez, is he going to get dropped? Dropped yesterday, didn't play yesterday. Was that European rotation, or is he gone now? Is Jurgensen in?
Well, he had that game, didn't he, a few weeks ago against Bournemouth, where he was incredible, and we thought, is this a new Sanchez that can kind of step up? They get a clean sheet against West Ham. He didn't have too much to do in that. A bit lucky, I think, with the goal that was scored to get the clean sheet in that. But so unbelievably poor against Brighton. I just think he's a liability, and it's whether he feels that Jorgensen can do the passing and the ability that Sanchez has got. Because I don't think Sanchez is a particularly great goalkeeper, if I'm being honest. He did a good job for us at Brighton for a bit, but lost his place to Jason Steele, which I think says a lot.
Yeah, who is good with his feet.
Very good with his feet, yeah, and a better shot stopper and more reliable than Sanchez was. I still don't think Sanchez is that good with his feet either. He's like all right, but he's not.
Well, he didn't look it against Brighton, did he?
He's not one of the best like distributors and like quick feet and best shot stopper. I'd say he's not a great all rounder, but Maresca does seem to like him, and he has mentioned a few times that he really rates him.
He's saying he's his first choice keeper, but I think when he said that, we were still thinking, but Sanchez is probably 1 or 2 mistakes away from being dropped. And then he goes and makes 2 successive errors against Brighton that got punished for goals. I mean, there were 6 goals in that game, and 5 of them came direct from mistakes. I've never seen that before. I've never ever seen that. I think it must be. I just can. 5 mistakes leading to goals in a single game. I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean, that is officially recorded by Opta. I don't know if Opta put out whether it was a record, but I've never seen that before. And he was dreadful, and he got away with it because of Palmer. Palmer took all the headlines, and they won the game, and no one seemed to mention what an awful performance it was from Sanchez. But he was on some wildcards, and he is up there in this table. He's got 32 points this season. His points per 90 is 5.3. Raya's on 5.7, Anana 5.5. So you look at this table and you think, well, I've got to start considering Sanchez. And, we saw on the previous table, defensively, they're not too bad. But I just looked at that performance and thought, I wouldn't be going there now. And if I had him, I'd be a little bit worried come the weekend team sheet.
I think his place is safe, but if I had him in my team, I'd be worried that because he's bloody useless. I'd be more worried about that than him getting dropped.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel's saying here, Jurgensen was hi Nigel, by the way. Jurgensen is the oddity. He was signed because he's good on the ball, which makes you think it's only a matter of time for Sanchez shot. I totally agree with you. You know, they went out and signed him for that purpose. Now he's a young keeper. I think he's 23, 22. So maybe he's still got, he's got plenty of time on his side, and maybe he is one for the future. That's how Chelsea see it. But he's a good keeper. He was first choice. So, and they spent money on him. So I do think, if Sanchez does keep his place, he can only be one or two more mistakes away from being dropped. Surely.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They can't afford to lose games because of it. I mean, the fact they won the game perhaps helped, but yeah. And the other thing is that you talked about Flecken here. So Flecken is only behind Kelleher for BPS per 90, so 22.7, and he's got 30 saves, which is only behind Hermansen, who made 12 saves against Arsenal.
Unbelievable performance that was.
Yeah,
my God.
So I look at Flecken and think, he basically fits the bill nicely in terms of you want your 4-5 to hopefully offer you some save points and maybe get bonus when there's a clean sheet. But I look at the fixtures, and although they're kind, I think, well, this is the next 6: Wolves, United away, Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away. I could see Brentford conceding in every one of those games, quite frankly. That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, I in the end, I looked at it all and I just thought the only goalkeeper I'm going to be happy with is Raya, because we know. I mean, look at Hermansen, 12 saves, 0 bonus. He wasn't even close.
That's crazy, wasn't it?
To getting bonus. And, I know they conceded 4 goals, but at the same time, you don't have any hope of bonus if your goalkeeper concedes. So at most, even if Flecken gets 6 saves, the best he's getting is 4 points. So the clean sheet, but when a goalkeeper gets a clean sheet, they're very likely to be in the bonus, because we've seen with Ray, he's getting like 33, 34 BPS. Yeah, and there's just no one. There's just no one I trust.
25 saves, that's why. So he's made more saves than we expected.
True.
Yeah, I miss Raya already. I really regret it already. I need to, and it's not even the 0.5. It's just the fact that I don't like having Flecken, because last season I hated not having a good keeper. It just basically just nagged away at me, and slowly but surely it became a big problem. At the end of the season, we looked back and we said we should have had our eye on that. And so I do want Raya back. I'll make do with Flecken for now, because he might surprise me, and he will at least get me a save point in most games. But I'm not expecting any more than that, really. Defenders. We talked about Trent already. We know people are wavering. So let me put it to you. Did we get rid of Porro too soon? Because he's up here 0.22, which is well behind Trent. Trent's on 0.43. So a significant difference. But, I think Porro's only got, 1 goal so far? No assist yet. I mean, it's like Trent, isn't it? We expect more from Porro, for sure.
Yeah.
We expect him to probably come in with 6 or 7 assists, maybe 3 or 4 goals, maybe more than that even. And he's considerably cheaper, and Spurs do have this fixture on. I kind of think that he was a player I owned before the wild card, and I obviously regretted it after the clean sheet at United. But I do think that with Spurs' fixtures, he's someone, if I was downgrading Saliba so I could get Raya back in goal, Porro I've got to consider again.
Yeah, I'll just at this stage, all these stats are from Fantasy Football Scout. So if you're enjoying the tables, head over there. There's a link in the description. You can sign up. Create your own tables, look at the fixture ticker, change all that. This is the time of the season now, 6 weeks in, when you want to start getting ahead of people. So although we present, what's that?
Data starts to matter now.
Data starts to matter, exactly. So if you haven't got a membership, do head over there. But yeah, on Porro, he kind of falls in between sort of 2 different strategies, doesn't he? I mean, you either it seems like people are either going quite heavy up top, like you with Trent, Gabriel, and Saliba, or you're taking money out of defense and going for maybe 1 Arsenal defender and then 4-5, so you can go for more of the premium. So it's hard to know where kind of Porro fits in, because it doesn't really fit into either of those two strategies. I mean, Vardiol's only 0.4 more because he's down to 5.9. So do I think he's worth 0.4 over Porro, given the fact that, I mean, City aren't keeping loads of clean sheets either, to be fair, but with the fixtures the way they are and Vardiol's attacking stats, which are just behind Porro, I think. Porro's 0.22, Vardiol's 0.19. Yeah, just behind. I think I'd probably look to find a little bit of extra to go for him. And I think the one good thing about Porro was when there wasn't really an option in midfield and Solanke was a bit injured, it felt like he was kind of covering that attack. But now I think with Johnson and Solanke, they're better options than him for that. So,
yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I think you're right. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because of the 4-5s, although they look attractive because you think, well, I don't want to spend too big in defence. I wouldn't mind having a defence of Gabriel, Trent, Porro, and Vardiol. In fact,
no, I agree.
Think that would be really good. I mean, you could say you're overspending, but I do think the attacking potential that they offer. Plus, you look at this and think, well, Porro's got 2 clean sheets. That's not too bad at all. He's only conceded 5 goals. Vardiol's only conceded 5 goals, got 1 clean sheet, and we expect more to come. If I was wildcarding now, I wouldn't outrule the idea of going, big at the back, so to speak, and getting investing in those players.
Yeah, and maybe if you wildcard, you do go a bit bigger on Spurs. Maybe you do go for the 3.
Yeah.
Given the fixture, so Porro, Johnson, and Solanke, for example. I mean, that's something very different that not a lot of people have got. And you're playing into the fixtures. I don't know. I think he's just a little bit too pricey for me, given the lack of faith I have in the Spurs defence. I mean, you get Van de Ven for $1 million less.
Yeah, I mean, that assist was incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I am, I'm covered in Raya and I'm covered in Porro, 2 players that I lost on the wild card. Yeah, I kind of missed them both. They were nice to have around the dressing room as well.
Good lads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not too bothered about Porro.
Midfielders. So looking at this table, we've got players like Maddison and Nkunku, De Bruyne, Sinistera at the top, mainly because Sinistera and Nkunku have played few minutes, so they get to the top of XGI non-penalty per 90 on the basis of brief appearances off the bench. So when you look at this, other than Maddison, Palmer's top. Palmer's gone from 43rd to 5th in this table, 0.79, just off the back of that Brighton performance, which is incredible, because last week we looked at him, we had him in this table and we're like, 43rd, there you go, statistically he's not performing yet, we can hold fire, we can wait and see. Boom. There he is at the top now. Talk about Maddison first of all. I watched the Spurs United game and I don't think Maddison's in my top 3 for Spurs assets. I think I would still probably go Son, Johnson, Kulusevski over Maddison.
I mean, he's never put in numbers like this before, has he? But he's not in the top 10 for touches in the box, for shots or chances created. And the reason why we've got those 3 on the tables is they're normally a pretty good indicator of when points are coming. I mean, look at Saka; he's in the top 10 for all 3 of those metrics. The thing with Maddison is he can easily just drop deep, can't he? To help control the game.
Yeah, he is.
And he's really effective, and it's going to work against Brighton because he's going to drop deep, ping a ball over the top, and he's going to have bloody everyone running onto it with our defence at the halfway line.
And I think Kulusevski is probably maybe below him because there's not too much of a saving, and he hasn't got a massive goal threat. But you look at touches in the box, and he's 9.86 touches in the box per 90 compared to 6.39 Maddison. And he's creating chances at a better rate, 4.11 per 90 compared to 2.44. In fact, Kulusevski is the top in this table, even ahead of De Bruyne. So, he's been impressive, hasn't he? We talk about, well, you get Maddison for assists and he's in that 10 role. Why not Kulusevski? He's cheaper. And this data suggests that he's at least matching Maddison's output in terms of chances created. It's better in him. So, yeah, we shouldn't overlook him. But, of course, Johnson is the key attraction. 11.06 touches in the box now, which is second on this table. 3.83 shot in the box per 90. And I bring up this table here, which is a comparison of his seasons, 3 seasons in the Premier League. And of course, 22-23, he was at Forest and a key figure, scored 8 goals, 5 assists. He was involved in 43% of Forest goals. Then he went to Spurs last season, 23-24. 5 assists, 5 goals, 12 assists. Good returns again, 17 returns. So he built on the 13 he got at Forest. But what's key this season, and although obviously he's only got 2 goals, 2 assists so far, touches in the box per 90, shots per 90, and shots in the box per 90. All three of those values are at the highest they've been in the Premier League for him. So 11.06 touch in the box, almost double last season. 3.83 shot per 90 ahead of 2.05 last season. Shot in the box per 90, 3.83. So every one of his shots has been in the box. Those three key performance indicators, we need to take notice of that, don't we?
Yeah, and I think the other big one there is accuracy, because we know he had a good XGI that he underperformed on last season. His conversion, his accuracy last season was 36%, and his conversion was 9%. Well, his accuracy is up 10%, up to 46. The conversion isn't up that much higher, but if he's more accurate, you've got to think the conversion is also going to be up at some point as well, because all you can ask a lot of the time is they hit the bloody target, you know, and if the goalkeeper's making saves, then fair enough. So if that conversion rate can climb up to where it was in 22-23 at around 15%, and he's getting like nearly double the amount of touches in the box, getting into more kind of dangerous areas, then he's going to make a mockery of that 6-4.
Yeah, and the accuracy is sustainable. I've seen him a lot, and he got 49.1 when at Forest. He is very accurate with his shooting. He is a good finisher. Like, he's not in Son's level, he's not elite, but he is. When he was at Forest, he was known for his finishes. You put him through 1-on-1, and he'll often get it on target and often score. And he's starting to show it now. 5 in 5, and he is a confidence player. I know that, and I know when I watch him now, I can see it. I can see what I saw at Forest when he clicked in our promotion season. Every time he comes on the pitch, you think he's going to score. You put him through, he's going to score. And he's shooting earlier. He's shooting first time. He's finding the corners with his shooting. I just think that, I mean, I talked about him last week, didn't I? I had a wildcard team with him in, and you talked about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have gone with that again. I regret it. But if Diaz doesn't turn up, if Diaz is on the bench and we hear about it, if we get one of those horrible, sinister leaks that come out on a Saturday morning, I think
in our WhatsApp chat.
I think I'm going Brennan. Our exclusive WhatsApp chat, that is the content creator exclusive, the cartel,
the syndicate, I think it's called actually.
Yeah, I think I'm going Brennan.
Yeah, no, I like it. I really like it, and I've been really impressed with him. Last year, he looked like a kind of a wasteful player who, looked like I said, gave them something a bit different, a bit direct. But I wondered if he'd be able to make the step up to be like a kind of consistent player for them. 5 in 5. Can't get much better than that. And it's the ownership, and it's the price, and it's the fixtures. It all seems to be falling for him at the moment. And I think this is where he might get overlooked a little bit, because people are a bit reluctant to move off Diaz and move off other players because that template is so strong. But he's right up the top of my want list.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just got to point out, Nigel the Craft has just gifted 5 BlackBox memberships.
Oh, thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you,
Nigel. You're a legend. You're far too kind. Let's go back to midfielders and see what else there is to discuss there. Let's talk about Palmer then. I'm going to come off this table straight away and show you Palmer's season compare.
I love him. I hate him.
This is this season compared to last. And obviously we're looking at the per 90 data here where it's interesting. And it is interesting because for touches, for the 3 metrics we talked about with Brennan, touches in the box, shot per 90 and shots in the box per 90, Palmer is behind where he was last season. I mean, you look at touches in the box, and that's the one I picked out last week. I said, he's getting like 1.9 touches in the box per 90. And like it or not, if you're not getting touches in the box, you're not going to be as productive because your chances are low XG. Now, of course, he's an amazing player. He can score low XG chances, as we saw with the free kick, which is incredible.
Oh, my God.
But even so, 4.81 touches in the box per 90 last season, 2.68 this season. That kind of shows that he's not perhaps getting into those areas as much as he was last season. His shots per 90 down, his shots in the box per 90 down. Now, his other metrics are all up. Chances created, big chance created, open play crosses. XGI per 90, crucially, up from 0.68 to 0.79. So the other thing I point out is heat maps. So I had a look at his first 6 games this season compared to, I forget these. These are, I'll take those off because that's the titles from the last one.
I was going to say
Ignore those. So the OBS does that. It's really annoying. First 6 games from this season compared to the last 6 games of last season. So obviously the heat map on the right as we look at it, on the left as we look at it, is this season. Heat map on the right as we look at it is last season. And there's no question. You can see how much deeper he's had his touches, and you can see how few touches he's had in the box in the first 6 games of this season compared to the last 6 of last season. And part of that is Maresca started playing him out wide, but also I've seen him come deeper in games. I watched him at Bournemouth, and he was not only wide, he was coming to collect the ball and instigating play, and not where you wanted him. He wasn't up with playing off the striker. Now, so there's no question the eye test has said that, well, maybe he's not going to hit the heights of last season. I guess my question to you is, do you think that we can expect him to maintain it now and be that player who could threaten to top the points ratings like he was top overall scorer? Or do you think the whole Brighton thing is just a one-off and it's going to settle down again and he's going to be in that pack with Saka and Foden and the rest? Or do you think he's going to be up there with Haaland?
That's a good question. I think he needs to be judged differently. He needs to be judged alongside some of the best assets we've ever had in FPL. So, like we've talked about Salah in the past being a bit too wide, looking at his heat maps, looking at his shots and all that. Always become a bit more of an assister. Oh, there he is, 250 points again at the end of the season. We've had it with Kane. Oh, Kane is dropping really deep. You can see it from his heat map. He's got getting forward 30 goals in the season. Players like that he's just another level. He just is. He's one of the best players in the league. Like one of the best players in the league now. Which he's saying this at the start of last season. It's kind of absolutely ridiculous to say, but he has to be judged, I think, on that level. And the fact he can, not consistently, but the fact he's getting sort of semi-regular 18 to 22 points.
It's the ceiling, yeah.
Yeah, that's not something we see a lot from Foden or from Saka. I know Foden got a couple of hat-tricks last season, but before that was quite a new thing for him. Saka's never really kind of done that. So, we are comparing him now to some of the best assets we've ever had. I think he's going to go on and get 220, 230 points again.
So you think he'll be second to Haaland?
I think
he'll beat Salah?
I think it'll be close. Salah is he's another level as well, isn't he? I think it's those three. I think it's those three as the top three. Because
only a week ago, I was convinced it's going to be Haaland, Salah, and then you've got Palmer, Saka, maybe Son and Foden, certainly Foden in that next group. And I would say that Haaland and Salah weren't in the same bracket, but they were 2 brackets above Palmer. And now suddenly we're saying, well, Palmer could push and challenge Salah in that second tier below Haaland. Now, I'm just thinking, is it because we believe that, or is it because we've just seen him destroy Brighton and recency bias? Right? Is that at play here? Because obviously, I want him, but like you said earlier, I'm not panicked yet to get him because of the fixtures. But he is, to a degree, fixture proof, right? He can do it against anyone.
Yeah, I mean, last week I said I was impressed with Sancho, and I still am. I think Sancho is like 6'3", something like that. I mean, he's a cheap midfielder. Is he on this list, Sancho?
No, not yet.
Not even in the top 30.
He's not made it yet. No.
Yeah. I'm not too convinced about Madueke on the right. I think Neto will be looking at that spot and trying to break into that. But Jackson up top as well. Like we had the last game and thought, okay, Jackson, Sancho, Palmer, maybe there's not a huge amount in it between the three of them. And then you have a game like that and you see the influence he has and you think, yeah, I mean, he just is leagues a part of these three. So I don't think. I mean, it changed every week, isn't it? I'm going completely against what I said last week, but now I don't think that those other options are going to eat into his points so much after one week.
I mean, yeah, this is what I'm saying, isn't it? It's amazing, and it could easily change again. Like if Southampton capitulate and Arsenal win 6-0, which I don't think is off. I don't think that's out of the question. I think Arsenal could absolutely thrash Southampton.
Yeah,
because they are the one team I look at and think. I predict now at some point if Martin stays, they are going to get tonked 5 or 6-0.
I completely
at some
agree.
point. Yeah. So there's no if Arsenal wins 6-0 and Saka gets 2 assists and a couple of goals or 4 assists and a goal or something ridiculous like that, suddenly we'll go, oh God, we can't go outside. So it's the recency bias plays a part. And I do think the Brighton defensive performance was a bizarre. I think it's a one-off. So I don't know. I'm still reserving judgment. I want him, but I don't want him more than Saka at the moment because of the Southampton fixture.
Palmer should have broken the all-time points record.
He should have done. Yeah,
because I'd love to sit here and say, oh, it's only a penalty and it's not a lucky free, a 10 out of 10 like wonder free kick, but he hit the post early on. He was through on goal at the end. He did that golf club pass, the golf swing pass to Jackson. He could have had 2 more goals and at least 2 more assists in that game.
He could have got 40 points, couldn't he?
And if he's getting 40 points in a game,
it was an utterly bizarre game. It was like there was like you said, Sunday League defenses playing in the Premier League. That's what it was like. And I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see what he does against Forest and see how we handle him. Because one breath I think, well, we'll be stronger defensively. The other breath I think, if he's playing in the 10, we haven't really got a good 6. Yates will play there, but he's not disciplined enough. So he will find space. And the other thing is, Sells isn't good enough. So he doesn't need high XG chances to score against us, because if he shoots for the corners, I don't think Sells is getting there. I refer the honourable gentleman to the 2-1 defeat to Everton last season, where both Everton goals were just grass cutters into the corner and Sells didn't get anywhere near either of them. So I do think that Palmer will find space, and I do think that his shooting from range could get him at least a goal. So I am kind of worried, even though I think defensively we're much stronger than the Brighton showed last week. But yeah, we have got weaknesses in the area that Palmer plays.
No, don't tell me that. That's horrible. I think it's just interesting seeing Palmer play with like decent attackers now, isn't it? Because he was just so by far the only bright spark in that team last year. But now he's got players around him who are also doing well. They're creating space for him and creating, they're helping him in that regard. So it's whether as from last week's right, and actually they do start eating into those points, or as from this week is right that he just hogs everything. I'm leaning towards the second at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question here from Indy Barge, who says, if we think Salah and Haaland are fixture proof and Palmer's now heading towards them, or in that league, surely we think he can do it against anyone. Yeah, I kind of do. I think I'm still wary of the role he plays in that Chelsea team. I still don't trust Maresca. I still think that Palmer in tougher games could end up coming deep to try and orchestrate things rather than being right off Jackson like he was against Brighton. So that's the only thing I would say is, like, I think that he can do it against anyone. I just don't think tactically in tougher games that he'll play as far forward necessarily as he did against Brighton. That's all I'm thinking. So I want to see. I think this is a good period to watch and see what we get. Palmer, if you own him, well played and good luck, and you'll probably do well out of him. But if you don't own him, I don't think there's panic yet.
No, I agree. I don't really agree in fixture proof as a saying. I don't think anyone's fixture proof. I think anyone with a run of 2 or 3 games when you're paying that much money for them is someone to consider switching up and trying to catch points. If you've got Salah and you say he's fixture proof and you're going to keep him all season, but then he has, I don't know, 2 away games and a home game against decent defenses, and then you've got Saka or Palmer with 3 good-looking games going forward. I mean, it's the Saka and I mean, you could argue Saka's fixture proof because given how good Arsenal are, but if it gets to Southampton at home and then it's those fixtures for Foden, and Foden's look quite good, I'm not afraid to move off the fixture proof player to try and target one with better fixtures. Yeah. And I think we're going to have to do that this season because there's going to be hauls coming.
That's good. I enjoy that. It's all fine. One more question on this. Diaz is up here in 10th still, 0.70. He played 70 minutes last night. Jota didn't start.
Yep.
Would you consider switching back to Jota?
It has crossed my mind. I said, didn't I, last week? Unless you're wildcarding, I think if you're going to stick with Liverpool mids, you just get one and you stick with it, because I don't think there's going to be much in it between them. I don't think suddenly Diaz is a bad option. I think Jota has still, got the potential. I think the only thing is that Jota has Darwin as his, replacement potentially, and Diaz has Gakpo. And I think Gakpo is way up here compared to
agree.
Darwin. Because I think Darwin could be off in January if they got an offer from Spain or somewhere, I think. So yeah, that is the one thing that kind of puts me off Diaz a little bit, but I do prefer Diaz's role in the team because obviously
I do too. Yeah, because I watched him last night and McAllister scored, but Diaz was right with him, and had McAllister not made that run with him, which isn't a McAllister-like run, let's be fair. He doesn't normally score a goal from 2 yards out, getting to the end of a cross. Diaz was right behind him and would have scored. And when I watched the game, I was watching every time the ball went out right, it triggered Diaz to run to the far post. He was there every time. So his instruction is clearly, when we've got the ball out on the right, when you anticipate a cross is coming in, you've got to get in. You've got to get to that far post. Like the whole Raheem Sterling used to. He always used to be there on the far post to tap it in. And that's clearly a major change in the way that Diaz, because he's not crossing the ball as much. He's making driving runs, and he's getting
way more direct.
Post.
He's not wide at all. He's way more direct coming through the centre.
It's just the X-Mins. That's the worry. Yeah,
you drive yourself mad if you every week you're thinking, should I do Diaz to Jota? Should I do this? You'll go crazy. So I think you either stick with him or you just move. You either stick with the one you've got or you just move off Liverpool altogether, which is something that I'm considering this week.
Yeah. Forwards, you talked about Jackson. He's now top of XGI per 90, non-penalty per 90, 0.99.
Jackson evolved against us.
0.996. He has evolved. He has improved. 4 goals, 3 assists. We cannot say that Jackson hasn't turned into someone now we look at differently. 69% accuracy, 22% conversion. He's top 10 for shots in the box. He's top 10 even for chances created. This is a player that we have now got to seriously consider alongside Solanke and Watkins, right? And
he should have scored against us. He had good opportunities in those, and he was clinical against West Ham and full of confidence, and we're all talking him up. And then he comes to Brighton and he's got that confidence, but then wastes some really good chances. He is a great option though. I think it's if you're not going for Palmer because of the fixtures, then I think you're still backing Solanke and Havertz potentially with the fixtures they've got. So I still don't think he's someone for now, but he is definitely someone that I'm going to be looking at in a few weeks. If I don't move for Palmer, then Jackson is next on the list when the fixtures turn a bit nicer.
Yeah, I mean, I
do like Sancho though. I do like Sancho.
Do you? I think you need to get over that. For me, I think Solanke is the one that I want here. Like his accuracy is 88.9. It's not going to maintain that, but we know he's a capable finisher. 0.95 XGI non-penalty in that Spurs team with those Spurs fixtures.
That is high.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think I can not have Solanke. So I think I've got to make. I think what I'm looking at is possibly rolling this week, having 3 transfers, and then doing the moves that get me Solanke and probably Brennan, and then get Palmer in, which is probably the way I will go. Because going into a run with Solanke and Johnson, knowing that Spurs have got good fixtures for a long period, and even against tough opposition, they're going to push forward. I just think those two are real high value, even above Watkins, who I'd like to keep, but I just don't think, unless I can find a way of upgrading Stewart, which I don't think I can. It's bizarre, isn't it? Like 1 week of owning Haaland, and already I'm going, maybe I shouldn't have had Haaland, and I have Solanke, Watkins, and Havertz. But it's nice to have options.
It is. It's going to be tested when I want to get Palmer in a bit, but I can't see myself losing Watkins for the foreseeable.
Do you not?
He's of all the players I've seen so far this season, I'm so impressed with how he's looked, particularly in the last sort of 3 or 4 games when he's got that bit of extra fitness about him. It's just amazing. He hasn't got penalties, for example. Well, I mean, he might do. Have they had a penalty yet, Villa? I don't think they have.
No, but it's likely to be Tielemans because he's in the team, isn't he?
I would assume it's Tielemans, yeah. But yeah, you never know. Maybe he's been practicing them over the summer or something like that. But yeah, he is. I think he is another player who I think easily can hit double digits in any game, and he'll be a very reluctant sell if I do.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. The issue with the difference between Watkins and Solanke's getting 90, and with Duran about, Watkins just isn't. He just isn't. I mean, the only reason
what a goal last night.
I know. Watkins stayed on last at Ipswich, but he was subbed on 80 odd minutes, but only because Rodgers had a tight hamstring.
Mm.
You know, it gets to 65 minutes, and we know Duran is coming on, and then I own Rodgers and Watkins. It's probably likely one of them is coming off. So every game now, I'm thinking, well, 65 minutes. If the game is won, Watkins is coming off. And, if he's missing 25, 30 minutes every single game, Solanke's eventually at least going to match him, isn't he, over that? You would think, with the fixture Spurs have got. That's the way I look at it. I don't question Watkins' ability to get points when he's on the pitch. He's probably second to Haaland in terms of forwards. But Duran is a problem.
Do I think Solanke can match Watkins over the next 5?
Do you not think? Let's have a look at the ticker again. Spurs have got Brighton, West Ham, Palace, Villa and Ipswich. Right? Villa, obviously around Champions League games, you've got United, Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs and Liverpool. I mean, if you look at that 5, I think Solanke can match him easily. Well,
I think potentially in 10, that's where you look to move off Watkins. Spurs 3 away games, 10 to 13.
But Fulham away is not an easy game.
No,
I mean they will score against United and Bournemouth. I don't. Fulham away, they're not a pushover. Villa will probably score a couple of goals. They'll probably win the game, but it's not going to be a rout. Whereas you look at Spurs, and I mean, I'm not being funny. They could make a right mess of Brighton if they don't change things round. I mean, I've got them to win 3-1 at Brighton, and you've got them to win 3-2. So you think Spurs are going to score 3 goals there? Then they're at home to West Ham, who are in a bad shape. Palace, who aren't in a great shape either. And yes, then Villa and Ipswich, but they're home games, and I'd expect just the way Ange plays as well, isn't it?
I think the next 3, I would still back Watkins to outscore Solanke fairly comfortably. After that, it's a lot closer. The 4 after that, well, I don't even think it is close. I think the 4 after that, that's 3 home games for Spurs, Villa, Ipswich, Fulham, and 3 away games for Villa.
Yeah.
So that's where I think you make the switch.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I probably will end up going earlier than that. I probably end up moving him out.
Probably Fulham next week then.
For Fulham, and then bring Solanke in for 3 home games in 4, which is West Ham, Villa, and Ipswich. Because I've gone off Ange as a person. I think he's aggravated me with his post-match treatment of the media. Don't
tweet about it. It always goes well when you tweet about.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, whenever I talk about football things, generally I get leapt upon by the football massives. But I don't doubt Ange's I love his tactics. I love the way he plays, and for FPL, it's a gift, I think, with these fixtures. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't want to lose Watkins either, but I just don't see another way really. And it does open up Palmer for me if I do that. You see, that's the thing. And I also regret not having Havertz. So I sit here now with Haaland thinking I'd be quite happy not to have him and have Havertz, Watkins and Solanke, but I guess I wouldn't, because when we get to the captaincy, that's what changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz, the goal he scored against PSG as well, he's fearless. He's still playing very advanced. They've almost built that front line around him now. Yeah. And talk about, there was so many question marks asked when they signed him, paid all that money for him when he hadn't really delivered at Chelsea. But I mean, we thought he'd come in and be the 8, and, that was his best position. But his best position is what he's doing now, which is basically as the 9, as the focal point of the attacks.
Well, Trossard's playing as the 9, I think, but it's very fluid, isn't it?
He's still making the runs.
Yeah. Oh, he really is. And that's what surprised me, particularly for the home games. And I think I said it on the walkabout again. I said for the home games against low blocks, he's going to be in the box. He's going to be central. Yeah. Shots in the box per 90, 2.67. He's in the top 10 here. So the data supports the fact that he's getting in there. He's on the end of the supply. And by contrast, Saka, I think he's a creator now. I mean, even the goal he scored. You see the goal he scored last night. I thought, Saka scored, great indication that he's now getting.
It's that free kick.
It was a free kick. It was a free kick that just floated in. So even that wasn't an intended shot. Even that was a creative action that scored him that goal. So I was like, oh, typical. Because I'm starting to worry that Saka is morphing into a player who's not getting enough chances in the box, because that's now being left to Trossard and Havertz, with Martinelli on the opposite flank. So with those two raiding the box, if anything, when Odegaard's there, Odegaard does sit deeper. But when it's Havertz and Trossard, they are both players who will be on the box. So Saka's going to stay wide. So I actually think Odegaard's absence we thought would be affecting Saka in that the relationship was so strong. We looked at that diagram that showed they're the partnership that create the most chances for each other in the Premier League. But I actually think what's happened is because Havertz and Trossard have come into the team and now mainstays, that's bad because Saka's job now is to supply for them because both of them, I think they're both getting the box and they're both better finishers than Odegaard. So I think it's a problem that now.
If I had Havertz and Saka, I'd be captaining Havertz over Saka this week.
Well, there you go.
And if I had Havertz, I would probably be captaining over Haaland this week.
Would you?
Given that it's Southampton and given the fact I am expecting Havertz to get a brace against the Saints.
Are you?
Haaland could easily get a brace against Fulham, don't get me wrong, but Southampton really are poor. And I still have, like you say, I've got some question marks around what Saka's role is in the team. We know what Havertz's role in the team is. It's to get goals.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah. And Saka's role is supply for Trossard and Havertz.
Yeah.
Whereas when Odegaard's there, it's a bit more intricate. And there is only one of Trossard or Havertz in the box, and Odegaard is often outside the box orchestrating things.
Yeah. I think it
does.
It turns around a bit when Arsenal's fixtures turn a bit tougher because then Havertz might be asked to do a bit more work in midfield and drop back a bit deeper. But given the fact that it's Southampton next, I wouldn't buy him. I mean, if I was going to buy him this week, I would probably captain him. But I think then it's Bournemouth away. They're no slouches. And then it's a tougher run. I don't really think it is the best time to buy Havertz. But if you got him last week, you captain.
Yeah, and if he was a midfielder and we were losing Diaz, we go to Havertz.
Yeah, I think that's the reason, isn't it? I think that I still can't quite get past that. Yeah. Still can't quite get past that reclassification of him, which is stupid.
Hurts a bit. Let's go on to predictions. First the standings. Oh dear, that isn't well formatted. Oh, I've made a few errors to that. Is that the latest standings? Yes, it is. There it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Let me just get that to fit. I thought I did this. That's so bizarre. This is what you want. Live OBS. There we go. And there we go. Right. So still hot 9 at the top.
You've cut me off on the bottom.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Sorry, you so far down and don't fit on the screen. There you go.
I'm like 20th on this now.
I've gone above you. 57% correct outcomes to your 52. We're both over 50%. I mean, that's good. If you're over 50%, that's pretty good. Obviously, Hot Iron at the top on 62% is godly. 10% correct scores. So we're almost neck and neck. I've sneaked above you. Let's look at our predictions for this week then.
Just to be clear, this is the Patreon. So members of the Patreon can join our prediction league and get involved in that. Compete against Mark and I in our predictions. And yeah, Hot Iron. Just interested on Hot Iron. He missed 6 off this week. He's winning the league by a country mile, and he's missed a load of fixtures, and now people are catching up.
He's getting cocky now. He doesn't even have to make the predictions to win
it. Exactly.
Okay, let's go through it. Palace, again, we don't see each other's predictions, and yet there are lots of similarities here. Not only are our teams identical, I mean, even down to Arsenal 4, Southampton 0, we both went 4-0 without seeing each other's things. Which I find interesting. Palace Liverpool, I've gone 3-0, you've gone 3-1. Poor formalities, really. I do think they beat them. I just don't think Palace are in a good shape at the moment.
No, I'm very unimpressed with them, particularly in the second half against Everton. Looked like they were, conceding chances for fun. Liverpool are going to get so much joy, I think, particularly down the wings where they look quite weak. Munoz hasn't really kicked on from the end of last season. Mitchell's doing all right, but I think they're definitely gettable, those two. So Palace probably fluke a silly goal because Liverpool do seem to have a bit of a mistake in them at the back at the moment. So I think they'll get one, but should win it pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I guess with Europe in the week as well, it could be a fatigue thing. But I mean, they were away, weren't they? But I still, I think defensively they're strong enough to keep Palace out. I just don't see major threats from them at the moment. Something's wrong. Something's wrong there. It's not clicking for Glasner this season. Brentford Wolves, you've gone 2-2, I've gone 2-1. Not too much to say here. I mean, I can see Wolves scoring a couple maybe, but I just think Brentford find a way. I think Thomas Frank seems to do that. But this is a better fixture for Wolves at last, so maybe O'Neill will whether it's hard to judge them on the start they've had, and they've got goals in them for sure. We talked about Aït-Nouri, Kuno, you said, Strand Larson. I just think Brentford nick it, but 2-2, fair enough. Leicester Bournemouth, we've gone identical, 2-1.
Yep. Good old Semenyo getting us a goal.
Oh, he was good, wasn't he? He was good.
I loved him. Loved watching. I really enjoyed that game. Like, as just having someone like Semenyo in it, it was fun. Even though Evan Nilsson cost us our sleeper draft against General.
Yes, fine. He could have gone off earlier, couldn't he? But yeah, Semenyo looked very good, and we haven't talked about him, but he is the top midfielder for shots this season. He has stepped up from last season, and I'm very, very happy that he's in my team. I just don't think he's good with both feet. Bournemouth they are an attacking team. When they get up ahead of steam, they can score 2-3 goals in any game. And I also think they've got a threat on the break where they can score in even difficult fixtures. So this isn't a difficult fixture, and I expect them to have too much for Leicester. Man City, Fulham, you've gone 3-0, I've gone 2. I just think Fulham are a little bit tighter than people think, and I don't think Man City are quite clicking yet. They need Foden back, and he will be back, but I don't think he'll get the 90, like you say. Rodri's still a big miss, and I think it'll be a routine win. I think Fulham will stretch them a bit. It'd be nice to see Adama, see if he can work his magic at the Etihad again.
Yeah. Remember that performance he had.
Under Nuno. And Adama is playing well. He was certainly the biggest threat against Forest, I thought. But yeah, 2-0, 3-0, so pretty routine there. Now, West Ham, you've gone Ipswich away win. I nearly did. I've gone 2-2, you've gone 2-1 with Ipswich.
I think Ipswich are a better team than West Ham at the moment. I think they've got a good way of playing about them. They can sort of defend when they need to. They're scoring a couple of goals now. I mean, 2 goals against Aston Villa is not any mean feat, given they just kept a clean sheet against Bayern in the Champions League. And yeah, I just haven't been impressed with West Ham. So yeah, I think if they see an early goal, the fans are going to get on their backs.
Oh yeah, and Lopetegui I think will be first to go. I don't think it will be Russell Martin. I think it'll be Lopetegui the way it's going. And a defeat here to Ipswich, that could be it. Yeah. He could be gone.
Yep.
They're not the most patient board, I don't think. Karen Brady.
Karen Brady.
No, I know. You're fired. I'm sure she wouldn't do. Imagine she did do it like that, just for the laughs, just for the bants.
She's still there, is she? She's still
something to do. I think she's something to do with it. She's not on the. She won't. Be good to get her in to do it though, just for the bants. I'm sure Lopetegui would see the funny side of that, wouldn't he? Arsenal Southampton 4-0. Not a lot to say really. A fact that we both think it's 4-0. I've never seen us agree on a route like that.
No,
that probably tells us it is going to be 6-0. Are we being harsh?
No, I think we're being generous. If anything, I think
the chat. I bet Swat's turned off now because he obviously is a Southampton fan.
I mean, they can't be happy. They can't be happy with what they're seeing. I think the difference with Arsenal was clear in that game. They'd have drawn that game last year. And that's why they lost the league. They had too many stupid draws last season. And if they're going to win the league, they need to win those games. And they did. And I think they're going to slip up a lot less this season. They've just got too much quality to slip up. And they won't slip up in this one. I'm sure they won't.
No. We're identical on this one. Everton, this is the Garden Centre game. It's 5:30 on Saturday evening, and it's still open. You can still get in and probably get a cup of tea and a bit of cake and then go shopping for some plants. And while you're doing that, Everton will be playing Newcastle, and I predict, and As predicts, that Newcastle are going to win 2-1.
I mean, you say this is the Garden Centre game, but I'd love to have McNeil for this game, and I'd love to have Gordon back for this game, who I had last week, because I thought he led the line really well against Man City and had a couple of good opportunities. Do you know Newcastle have got 2 clean sheets away from home in the last 22 games?
They've been terrible away from home. Yeah, their home form has really patched it up, and we looked at the Gordon home form versus away form, didn't we? And Isak was similar, and it's reflected in Newcastle's away form versus home form. I mean, this is a hard one to predict, actually, because Everton, they've got good potential in attack. And, McNeil and Calvert-Lewin and then Dye on the left and Harrison maybe on the right. I think they've got potential to score goals. And Branthwaite is back now, so maybe they will be stronger.
No, he's out. He's out again.
Oh, is he out again?
He's picked up an injury, quad injury.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
he's out again. That's what swayed me to. That's what swayed me to a Newcastle win.
Yeah. I didn't know that. didn't know he was out. Was that this week? Did he break down again?
Yeah, today came out.
Oh right, okay, that explains why I missed it. I do think Everton are in trouble. I mean, I don't want Dyche to lose his job. I do like Sean Dyche, and I don't think he will. So I think he's got credit in the bank, but they lose their home games. That's the trouble. And I see Newcastle winning.
I think it's. I've said it before, but what surprises me with this Everton team is just how disorganised they look, particularly from crosses. They just don't seem to be able to deal with anything in the
set pieces. They're a mess on corners, aren't they?
Corners, like crosses, and if I think about Dyche's teams over the years, it's like big centre backs head the ball away, get it clear. They're just not.
Going on there?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Palace were causing havoc, weren't they, at set pieces?
Crazy. I got Leif Davis in a few weeks. That's why he's in my team. He's going to put in about 20 crosses in that game, I reckon.
I nearly made this game on Sunday, the Garden Centre game, because it's prime Garden Centre time, 2:00. It's Chelsea versus Forest, but I couldn't because of Palmer. So. I think everyone's going to watch it for Palmer to see what he does, and I will be as well. I think it's going to be 2-1 Chelsea. You agree as well. I think that's probably a likely outcome. I think we can score. Gibbs White back, of course. And I don't think we get too much ground up, but I do think Palmer from range, I am worried about that because Sells just isn't good enough. It's not good enough.
I think this is the first time I've predicted Chelsea to win this season so far. So it has to be against you. I just think they've got a bit too much view in attack at the moment.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And Villa United, you've gone a drubbing. 3-0 with Villa. I mean, have United lost tonight? I think they have, haven't they?
I think they might have drawn. I think Maguire might have scored in the last at the death.
Is that where it goes? Right, okay.
Yeah, 3-3 draw in that.
And that Bruno got sent off again, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
You've gone 3-0, I've gone 2-0. You just no joy for United at the moment. How long has Ten Hag got?
Well, I think Maguire might have saved his job. I think if they lose that after being 2-0 down, and then they go to Villa and get thumped by Villa, he could be. The trouble is, I've read about how much it's going to cost them to sack him, and it's like 20 million quid or something to get rid of him. It's ridiculous amounts of money. So I think it's going to have to get a lot worse before they do. I mean, losing to Porto though, then losing to Villa 3-0 would be they'd have to be making some. You'd have to be considering it. I think.
Well, I didn't lose tonight today. So
no, I mean, I think he's probably bought himself a bit of time now. Yeah. But honestly, I just think Villa are brilliant. I loved watching them last night. I was so happy when they got that win against Bayern. Martinez was unbelievable. Some of the saves he made. Pau Torres was excellent. The whole team played like a proper team, and that's just what United don't do. They don't play like a team.
Yeah, Emery will have too much for Ten Hag.
And they let Van der Ven run past their entire defence. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, you foul him, don't you? I mean, you just bring him down.
Of course you do.
I mean, Rashford was so casual. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I watch, is it Mark Goldbridge going crazy after every United defeat? But sometimes I think, actually, he's got a point. Which is like when you start agreeing with him, it's like, it's in a bad way for United. Brighton versus Spurs, I've gone 3-1, you've gone 3-2. So you think Brighton will put up a show? I can't see Brighton keeping them out. Unless, I mean, Triggerlips was in earlier saying, beware because Brighton would have learnt their lesson and will change it up. Do you think he'll change it up?
Well, we didn't. We literally did it against Forest and we conceded so many stupid chances that it made me chuck a stool across the Madrid bar.
We could have beaten you in the same way that Chelsea destroyed you, in that we caught you on the break for the equaliser, and then we almost did it at the death, even with 10 men, and nearly scored to win 3-2. And you had 11 men on the pitch to our 10, and yet you still were open to it. And I just think Spurs' pace is going to scare the life out of you, isn't it?
I'm really concerned that Hertzler thinks that tactic was appropriate. With two of our key players out in Veltman and Van Heck. So Kadiogo goes over to the right, which he hasn't played yet. We've got Stupinan coming, like I mentioned, back from injury. We've got Webster in, who I don't think he's played at all season, and like I said before, isn't good enough. You've got to have a bit of coordination between the four of them to make that work. And the offside trap just didn't work. It just didn't work over and over and over again. And
Ange will go on the front foot. So you'll have Maddison and Kulusevski feed in that front three. All three of them have got pace. If Son's back. I mean, if Son isn't back, they got Werner, which is probably even worse in terms of pace. I mean, Johnson against Estupiñán. Estupiñán's just not good enough defensively, is he? And Johnson's full of confidence. Solanke against those centre halves, you can never handle it. Anyone with pace and size, you struggle with. I can't make a case for anything but a Brighton defeat. It's just how many, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Son being out would be good because he's the one that I would worry about with the balls being pinged over the top. If Werner's in, then they're definitely weakened.
Yeah, at least he won't. He's got no end product, has he?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I am worried about this one. I think we'll give them a game. We gave Chelsea a game. You know, you can't say we didn't give them a game because when we did attack, we looked really dangerous. And that's the strategy, isn't it? It's put the players on the halfway line. So when you win the ball back, you can attack in numbers. And we put their defense under a lot of pressure, but it wasn't worth it because we
pushed them right back. So I had a look at. I looked at where their fullbacks were because I thought, well, who was inverted? Because normally Maresca inverts one of the fullbacks. Neither of them were. They were right back with the centre halves. So if you look at Palmer's heat map, he's quite deep. He does have a lot of touches in his own, because Brighton pushed Chelsea right back.
Yeah.
The trouble is, when he did get touches in your half, it was with no defenders around him, basically.
It's just strange because, I mean, you know, you look at the defensive table you showed earlier, we show up quite strongly in that. And a few weeks ago, we were saying how good Brighton looked defensively. And you asked me, do you think things have changed? I said, yeah, they're less naive. They're not doing these stupid things. And the last two games have just been a complete 180 as to what I saw in those previous games. So I'm praying that he goes back to, you know, I don't mind a high line. I don't mind, you know, high press and high risk. And, you know, that's an exciting way of playing football that I want Brighton to play. But you cannot play with Dunk. I mean, Van Heck's out again. So it's going to be Dunk, Webster at the halfway line.
Best defender now.
I think it's a massive blow for us, him being out. Massive blow. He's absolutely quality, that guy. And say for the third time today, Webster ain't good enough.
If you're not careful, he's going to remove his Instagram page because you keep insulting him.
Well, I will say he got a lot of abuse after the game, and you know, some of the comments are ridiculous. Like, they're so nice. You get behind your players, you get behind the team. You know, he's been a great player for us, and you know, I've got a massive amount of respect for him. But yeah, it does worry me when I see him in the lineup, unfortunately.
Captaincy. It's not easy, is it? Because obviously Haaland at home to Fulham, I got him in with this game in mind, or with this run in mind. But Saka and Havertz, as you say, on this table here, you know, Saka 0.7 XGI non-penalty, Havertz 0.63, but that's really academic. It's more about the opponent, the fixture. I do think Southampton at home is an easier fixture by quite a margin than Fulham at home. If City were in top gear, I wouldn't even hesitate. But the fact that they're not makes me think that it's a question. It's not. I wouldn't go so far as it's a dilemma. I probably will go home. but there's a chart. I mean, like, where are you at the moment with this?
I'm on Haaland because I think Saka, everything we've talked about as the creator. I mean, 8 chances created against Leicester, 4 of them big chance.
He had 7 shots as well, though.
Just 7, yeah, but it didn't show up massively on the highlights. I never looked at the highlights and thought he's, like, you know, unlucky not to score. I thought he could have had 4 assists, but in terms of goals, I thought maybe that the shots were coming from a bit of range or weren't the clearest cut. Yeah, I like Havertz. Havertz would be the one that I go for. I don't have him. Saka's a consideration, I think, but Haaland is just a beast. Can you see Haaland blanking twice in a row? It's very hard to see that happening. And where else do you go?
No, I think he will get a return, but I think Saka, if Arsenal go off on Southampton, Saka could get 4 or 5 returns. It's possible, depending on the margin of victory. I definitely think Arsenal beat Southampton by a bigger margin than City beat Fulham. There's no question. I mean, let's bring up Rob's graphics, because at this time we love bringing in Rob T stuff at Rob T FBL. Follow that account because he does great stuff like this. And this is the spread betting markets, and Arsenal are projected with the most goals, 3.05 to City's 2.65. It's not often that when City are at home, they're not touted as the most likely to score the most goals. But yeah, Arsenal against Southampton is overwhelming. That change your mind?
No, because I think you've got to look at it with a pinch of salt, isn't it? You've got to see Arsenal 3 goals. Well, that could be Trossard, Havertz, Saka 3. Man City 3 goals. Haaland.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's it. It's the dominance in that City team. I mean, Foden is back, so it won't be as great when Foden's up to speed, but it is at the moment.
It's a crappy way of looking at it, but it's how I am looking at it at the moment. And yeah, unless Saka was like completely dominant in the returns that he got. I mean, it might be different. I mean, again, is it with hindsight? I mean, if Saka had got 2 assists or even 3 assists in that game and came away with a double-digit haul, people might be more likely to go with him this week. I mean, how Hermansen's kept out that Gabriel header, for example,
fantastic save,
unbelievable.
And the corners as well. They won 17 corners, and they score from one eventually. But you think, give Arsenal 17 corners, they're going to get 4 or 5 goals.
Every corner led to a chance. Every single one. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen such a high. You think about the corners that just like go over everyone's head and go out for a throw in. You know,
they're so good at them. Yeah,
so good at them.
It's unbelievable. Okay, let's look at the captain matrix just briefly because it is interesting looking at this. I had another pass through this, and the reason why I got Haaland on the wild card is what you see here. He is dominant from 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11. He is probably captain material in at least 4 of those 5 fixtures. And then you look down the list, and certainly game week 8, you're really struggling, aren't you? I mean, like if you haven't got Haaland, unless you've got Son, and even then Son at home to West Ham, I don't see an alternative captain. You're not going to go Palmer at Liverpool, surely. May go Salah at home to Chelsea, but that's what made it important to get Haaland for me, is the captaincy, and particularly game week 8.
Yeah, Salah at Chelsea, I don't mind. Salah at home to Chelsea. I can see goals in that. I think that'd be the way I'd go. But yeah, certainly Saka and Palmer, with those 2 tough away games, they wouldn't be factoring in to me. I'd be very worried about not having Haaland in 8.
And then it does flip though, because you look at game week 12 to 17, and I've only highlighted 2 of Haaland's fixtures, and one of them, well, they're both home games, but they're against Forest and United, who I don't think. Again, I will say it. I don't think Forest and United will concede more than 2 goals. Maybe, I mean, if anything, United are probably most likely over Forest. So then that's not an easy run from game week 12 to 17. He's got Spurs at home, Liverpool away, Forest at home, Palace away, United at home, Villa away. I think it's reasonable to think I don't have to captain Haaland in 3 or 4 of those games. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 13 is a particularly difficult one, isn't it? Because Liverpool away, Salah with Man City, Saka with West Ham away. Arguably, that's a good one. Palmer with Villa at home. That's going to be a real spread, I think, of captains in 13. But yeah, I agree. I think when we're looking at going against Haaland, I think it probably is only those 2 you've highlighted between 12 and 17 that I will captain him in.
And look who comes in around 12 to 17 with the most captaincies. Palmer. He has in that run.
He's got to be in by 12.
Yeah. In that run, he's got Leicester away, Villa at home, Southampton away, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Everton away. You know, okay, the easier games are away, but they are pretty easy games. I mean, Leicester away and Southampton away are probably 2 of the easiest. Well, they are 2 of the easiest away games. And at the moment, Everton and Goodison Park aren't strong either. They might be by 17, but it's too convenient to look at this and think, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get Palmer in, and then I'll captain Palmer from 12 to 17 over Haaland. It does work. It does work.
Well, I think I'm going to get Palmer in 9. And then move Saka out. You know, Liverpool and then 2 away games in Newcastle and Chelsea. Palmer with Newcastle, so that evens that out. Man United, which is good, and then at least they're at home to Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I think in 9 will be when I move.
But it's good to see, isn't it, that although Haaland's dominant now, that won't necessarily be the case from 12, particularly if Palmer's done what he's done now, which is put himself amongst the top tier in terms of FPL again, which is great to see, as I said. No, I'm not salty at all about missing the point. Let's look at your team, and while we're doing it, look at my team, because it's more or less the same team. Take us through it for the podcast. Oh, I need to move the arrow because the arrow is pointing at me, but this is actually your team.
Yeah, it's because I'm on the bottom. This is like the first black box ever.
No, we have done it before like this, and people pointed it out. Yeah.
Okay. One of the first. Yeah, my team, I'm really happy with it. It's Raya in goal, Trent, Gabriel, and Lewis, who every week is a little bit like, is he going to start or isn't he? But He played well in the Champions League the other night, didn't he? And got the assist for
Very well
for the goal.
He had like 1.4 XGI in the game, didn't he, or something?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy I took the punt with him. I've got Davis on the bench if he doesn't come on. Saka, Diaz, Mbumo, Semenyo, Rodgers, Haaland, and Watkins. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I've got Davis and Moreno on the bench as well. So I've actually got some bench options rather than all the Greaves and
Ross
faces.
Stewart. He's going to play. Don't worry.
And Ross Stewart, who's been touted for a hat trick at the Emirates. Yeah, Haaland captain. No transfers unless we get news that Diaz is out. If Diaz is out, I'll be making 2 transfers.
Will you? Go on.
And I'll be getting Solanke in and probably just a 4-5.
What will you go
midfielder?
Dibbling then?
Yeah, I thought about Carvalho, but I just thought I'm just not going to play him, so I might as well just go Dibbling at 4-5 or 4-6 or whatever it is.
So you're going to then have Dibbling and Stewart?
No, because Stewart will be Solanke.
Oh, Stewart will be Solanke. Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Diaz and Stewart to Solanke and Dibbling.
Yeah.
If Diaz starts, I'll just play him. Happy with that.
Yeah, see, I could do the same. Surprisingly,
of course you can.
Identical players and identical money. And I did look at it. Let's bring up my team. Honestly, this is my team. Let's move the arrow. This isn't Az's team again.
Oh my god.
Flecken in goal. That's a difference. Saliba. There's a difference. Flecken, Saliba, Trent, Gabriel, Diaz, Mbumo, Rodgers, Saka, Semenyo, Watkins, and Haaland. Haaland captain. Saka vice. But I've got a little bit more depth, I guess, because if Diaz is out, I can play Lewis, and that's all right as long as Lewis starts. And in fact, I look at this and think, I really want to get Lewis in the team.
Well, you say you've got depth, but the only reason you've got depth is because you're having to start a bloody Brentford goalkeeper.
Yeah, I know. He's not home to Wolves, so that's all right.
I think it's a bit of a problem for you that though, because those 3 defenders are so strong. You don't want to be putting Lewis in, and so you're gonna be potentially missing out on his good run because you're not.
Yeah, but having said that, you look at it, and Semenyu's got tough fixtures coming up. So there is a period now where I think, Lewis can get in legitimately because would I play Semenyo at Arsenal and that kind of thing? I mean, he's capable, but I probably wouldn't. If Diaz doesn't start and we find out about it, I could do the same as you. I could upgrade Stewart to Solanke and go Carvalho or someone below that. Or I could just go Diaz to Brennan. And I think that's probably what I'll do, because what I plan to do next week is probably Diaz to Brennan, Watkins, Solanke, and then Saka to Palmer. Probably what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't think I can get Diaz down and get Solanke in for Stewart. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I've got a way of doing that.
No, obviously, you'll be a couple of million off, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I would have to lose Watkins, which would be a blow. But yeah, like I said, I do think Solanke can outperform him, at least match him over this next 5, given the fixtures. So that's where I am.
Everyone's just quickly. Everyone in the chat is saying, why is Diaz out? Everyone's selling Diaz. I mean, we're only talking about selling Diaz if we get the early team news that he's benched.
Yeah.
If we don't get any news or we know he plays, we won't be selling him.
Right? No. I mean, and Diaz could easily start despite the 90 in midweek because it's an international break and he's going away with Colombia. So he's going to get. He's going to get 2 weeks off anyway, and not much of a rest maybe, but he's going away with internationals anyway. So I don't think Slot will worry about the load on him, but it's about giving Gakpo a chance. That's the problem. And Gakpo, Slot likes Gakpo.
I don't think he'll start.
Do you not? You don't think Diaz will start?
I don't think Diaz will start. No, I think Gakpo's going to get this game.
Yeah, so do I. And so I think I will be making a transfer.
Same.
Or I could roll and play Lewis. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. No doubt I'll make my mind in a frenzied panic on Saturday morning. So
I can't believe my midfield's going to have Dibbling, Semenyo, and Rodgers in it.
Well, what did I say at the start of the season? Those 5 million 5-5 midfielders, they're going to be important, and it's turning out that way. I didn't think we'd have 3 of them. I thought we'd have a couple, but yeah.
Needless buying the player who's got 25 points.
We haven't looked at the BlackBox leagues all season, so I'm going to look at them now. Here we go.
Chris Lee, smash it.
Chris Lee is top of the BlackBox league with 495 points. Then Alfredo Efedi with 485. Seamus Graham 478. Nick Hayes 473. Lee Hall 471. Amal C 470. Eamon Doherty 469. Jakob Axelson, brilliant name, 469. Andy Whiteley 468, and then Joseph Samsoto 467. They're miles ahead of us, as it makes me feel so awful that they're so far ahead of us.
Well, Chris Lee is 95 points ahead of me, and he's 110th in the world.
Well played, Chris. Keep it up.
Fair play.
And then the Godfather League. Do you want to talk through this, Az?
Yes, we've got Alfie Baldwin with 465. That's a little bit closer. That's a little bit closer to us, which is nice. 80-point week for him, though. Jonathan Tingate in second. Joshua Anspach in third. James Linden, a certain James Linden.
I know,
fourth.
I can't believe it. Yeah, if people don't know, that is Planet FPL James. He was having a flyer without Haaland. I mean, fair play to him. Well played.
Did you know he joined our Patreon? I didn't know that until.
Yeah.
Okay.
He met me and said, "Yeah, no question." I said, "Oh, what are you giving us money for?"
No. He just wants to be in this and just win it. I don't blame him.
I'm doing a pub with him on Monday, so I'll
nice. Yeah, nice. Rob McCritchie in fifth, Matt Francis in sixth, Ikdan in seventh, Caroline Owen has had a great start to the season in eighth, James Parker in ninth, and Guy Dykehus in 10th. Good. Yeah, all ahead of us, but yeah, like I said, a little bit close. I'm only 20 points off Guy. I can get into the top 10. Come on.
If you want to join the Patreon League, the Godfather League, of course, all the details are on the video on how to join up and that, and you get the predictions and so on, and all that. Yeah. What have you got? Well, there you go. Yeah, check it out. Should we get onto the super chats? We've got 5 in the box to get through. 1,378 with us in this late hour. It's 11:15 on a Thursday night. It's a school night. We won't keep you much longer, but we'll get through the super chats, and there's a few.
FPL show tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, are you on? Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
All right. You got to get up at 6.
Yeah.
My word. Okay. Didn't realise you got to do that to get there. BMac, thank you very much for the 199 super chat. His question to us is: start Eze or free transfer Solanke for Pedro and start him?
Easy.
So get Solanke and get him.
Absolutely. Pedro to Solanke.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you think Pedro's going to be back? Is he fit?
No, I don't think so. I think he might be out for a little while. Slippers showed his crutches. If he's on crutches, he's not going to be back in a week. He's out for a while. He's out for a little while, I think.
Yeah. So BMac, don't trust Eze. I mean, we keep saying, he's got to turn for him. The variance has got to turn his way, and all the shots he's having. But I don't know. A Liverpool defence.
It will turn for him, but if it's a choice between Eze or Solanke this week, which it is, surely you go for Solanke.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry, thank you much, Jerry, for the €249. Bench 1 of McNeil, Rogers, Semenyo, Jimenez.
Another easy one.
Who is it then?
Well, you bench Jimenez, don't you? Away at City.
Yeah.
You're not benching Semenyo at Leicester.
At Leicester. You're not benching Rogers.
You're not benching McNeil at home to Everton. It has to be Jimenez.
Yeah. No, I think you're
double-digit
right.
hauler confirmed.
Nigel not only gave away memberships tonight, he's given us another 10.
Very generous.
You get back to him. Best diffs out of these: Calafiori 2%, Martinelli 3.6%, Trossard 2.3%. Fancy return from each of these 3 at home to Saints. I would definitely go Trossard.
Yeah, same. He looks on it at the moment. Looks really, really impressive. Like when he was with us and he was, scoring goals every week, and then we ended up getting rid of Potter. He's got a brace in him as well, I think. In fact, one thing we haven't said: if Diaz doesn't play, why not go Trossard? Yeah,
he
could do. I guess it's just the longer term aspect of it, isn't it? Like you're booking in a transfer from a bit later down the line when Odegaard's back,
and you've probably got 3 Arsenal and can't like me.
Yeah,
which is frustrating me now that I realise that, because I quite like the sound of it. He's also saying Evan Nilsson 0.7% away at Leicester, Savio 2%, only 2 assists fewer than Saka. Who's the best out of those 2? What do you make of Savio? I think now Foden's back, and Foden's not going to play on the right. Savio's got that start on the right, I think. But
Bernardo can move there, can't he?
Yeah.
I think Savio, that benching for Savio has really put me off him. I was kind of quite excited by him as a potential option, but he might still start the majority. But I think Bernardo's probably going to play quite a lot on the right now.
I do like Evan Nilsson. I think that we overlooked him a bit in the wildcard discussion. Yeah, and he's getting that confidence, so I do like that. And this could be a breakout fixture for him at Leicester, I think.
But then it's a tough run. It's a tough run then after that.
It is. It's fun, but as long as you can bench him, I think I prefer him over Wood at the moment now. Davis family first. Thank you very much for your super chat. Play one of Powell, Robinson, or sell Mickey for or Davis. Or sell for Mickey or Davis. Okay.
I think I'll just play Powell. I predicted a clean sheet for Villa, so I think I'd probably just play Torres.
Who's Mickey?
Van der Ven.
Right. Yeah, this is. I think United can score at Villa, and I certainly think that Villa will obviously score at Fulham. So Powell and Robinson, I can see. Is it worth going? I mean, Davis, for the run that he's got, has got good fixtures to come. I don't necessarily think there's a clean sheet this week, but I think I would go Davis. I think I would sell. I would sell Powell, Robinson for Davis and play him, because I do think Ipswich will score there, and then the run that Ipswich have got after that is good enough. I think you said you're going to play him for the home. I mean, they've got Everton, Brentford, Leicester. Definitely, if you've got him for Everton at home, Leicester at home, he's a great differential.
Yeah, I'm playing in both of those. Looking forward to that. I think United from set pieces, Pau Torres, the strength that they've got at the moment.
He's not really a dominant in the air, is he?
I'd do it. I wouldn't.
Okay, I'd go Davis. Anyway, Zoromir Boban, a regular supporter and a regular super chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for your super chat. Much appreciated. Thanks for watching. Calls us heroes, which isn't really deserved, certainly with the rank I've got. Top 100k with no ERL all season, and sold
Erling.
Palmer last week. Yeah, no Erling. Yeah, sorry.
No Earl.
I'm slow with these. Weird season, question, and no troll. What's up with people having exact game with one teams and exact same way cards? What's going on? AI stuff? Yeah, I think AI is behind it to some extent. I don't think it's one particular source of AI. I don't think it's hubs or reviews or rate my team. I think it's a combination of all three and the amount of content there is out there. Content creators not wanting to take risks and safety in numbers. There's unquestionably that's at play. I've tried not to be like that, but even I fell into the trap with the wild card and regret it. I think it's the bubble that we're in. And we talked about it earlier, don't we? It does feel weird, but I think it will level out. I think we'll see the ranks change for the content creators. I think they are people who are seasoned players, experienced players who will eventually have good seasons, no question. And I actually think the chaos that we've seen and the ranks that some of the content creators got, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's fine. We'll recover, and it's actually good that the season's been unpredictable. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I said earlier, I think again it's a pool of 20, 25 players. It's not a pool of the hundreds of players that are in the game. And I think the way the fixtures are set up is always going to lend itself to a pretty strong template. I think people have tried to go against a template and got burnt when they haven't gone for Haaland, for example. I think we've got some good mid-priced options like Diaz and Mbumo, and then I think it's just the influx of 5 million-ish options we've had. Rodgers, Smith Rowe, and Semenyo were all just no-brainers to pick on the wild card. So yeah, I think there's a couple of spots where Flecken versus Raya, when Raya had the doubt, it's then it would be that second or third striker spot in Wood, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, but the midfield of those five, it is really, really hard to argue against that five in midfield last week. I still think, and you could take a punt on a Palm or someone else, but those five have all been in good form, all going up in price, all with good fixtures, all kind of like key men of their teams. So,
I think the key decision was Saka or Havertz, because you went Havertz, then it unlocks Palmer, and I was looking at it, and I think most people on the wildcard looked at it. Some were brave enough to do it and go that Havertz is, and that's all to do with Havertz now edging as more of a goal threat than Saka, and it does. Looking at it today, it does look a very valid thing. I think if we were playing the wild card today and it was like, do you want Saka in midfield or Havertz up top, and you could get Palmer, there's no question to do that, right? Yeah. So but last week, sitting there, it was about, well, if Arsenal got a good fixture, I want Saka. Penalties. I
completely agree.
So it changes.
If I was wildcarding this week, it would be Havertz and Palmer.
For me. So it just shows you, doesn't it? And that's not a bad thing. If if the dial moves that quickly week to week, I don't think that's a bad thing. It is going to lead to people having some bad seasons, but I think the season managers and the content creators are amongst them. We'll come good in the end. And so if you're struggling at the moment, Zovamir, don't worry. I think your quality will show. It'll level out. And I say that sitting here at 2.1 million in the world, but I do think we're okay. There's no panic yet, and it's an interesting season, which I didn't think it would be a few weeks back.
I don't think Zvoner is panicking. I think he's just upset that everyone's got the same team, which is a real
He's top 100k. I just realised he's not worried at all.
Oh yeah, he's love it. Let everyone make mistakes and keep playing your own game. Get ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Zovamir, for your support as usual. That's it. Good show, Az. Enjoy that.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, loved it. Going to be knackered tomorrow, but worth it as always.
You got to be up at 6 a.m.
I'll be up at 6.
And are you on the show on the 22nd of November after the Football Content Awards?
Sure am.
Right. I think we're both going to be on.
Yeah.
Can't wait. We're both going to be on the FPL show, but not if I've got to get up at 6 a.m. after the Football Content Awards. I'm not.
Wait. Are you staying? You're staying in London though, right? You can already get a train over.
Yeah. It's a bit. Yeah.
Because if I leave any later than about 7:30, I hit rush hour, and then it's hours. So I need to leave around 7ish.
Okay.
Which isn't always fun. But if you can just get the train over to Hayes and Harlington, it's not too bad.
This is the content they want. Anyway, so you'll be on the FPL show, bleary-eyed and optimistic. So I'll look forward to watching it back. All right. Thanks very much for everyone who joined us tonight. 1,200 still in chat. Thank you for all your support and for tuning in this late Thursday evening. We will go back to Wednesday at 7. It's just it hasn't fallen quite right.
After the international break, back to Wednesday at 7. I won't promise, but we'll try.
We will see you in a couple of weeks. We probably won't do a show immediately after the international break. I'll do another video. I'll be back in the woods or wherever it takes me at the weekend. I'll keep them going.
People let you in the house one day, Mark, I'm sure.
Oh, no, it's fine. Did you see people are saying, oh, you got to feel for Mark's wife? She's not my wife, but my partner, because she has to walk on stilts behind him because the aerial shot.
Yeah.
I'd love that to be true. It'd be amazing.
That is what happens. I've seen it.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.